Going live. And we're live apparently. Hello folks. How are you out there on YouTube land? We're just on a wee bit earlier. Just as always, just to make sure it's okay, we've got a big green light for the sound machine, and it looks like we've got picture. Everything looks okie dokie. Let me just set up the live chat. There we go. Pardon me. And to get organized. So if anybody's out there just while we're getting ready, do say hello. It's Friday night tonight. We should have been on last night, but we weren't able to make it, unfortunately. So we, as usual, if we can't go on a Thursday, we try and go on a Friday. So there's 9 o'clock actually is the time that we're coming on instead of 10 o'clock tonight. Just got a few things happening this weekend that we haven't quite remembered. So I will take the moment to say hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. My name's Dr. Sloan. Welcome to my science fiction station, also known as the Doghouse. And tonight we are continuing with our Children of Dune book club, Children of Dune by Frank Herbert, and we're looking at chapters 48 and 49. Chapter 48 is a very fast little chapter, not even 2 pages in length. So we're going to run with it and then jump straight into chapter 49, which is much longer and much more detailed and has all sorts of little things in it that we need to have a bit of an adder about, I suppose. Mainly some a good dump of language by Frank here. Pardon me, in chapter 49. Some of it's stuff that we've had before. A lot of it's quite new, I suppose. So there's Bojack Harkness saying, hey there, Bojack, how you doing? Thank you very much for joining us as always. Yeah, we've got some stuff planned for you quite soon. We've been saying that we've been kind of waiting for the right chapter, and I think it will be very soon upon us. But that's where we're going to have a we're going to do something separate and have I think we've talked about it. We're going to have a chat about ritual, which is going to be very relevant to tonight. Ritual and myth with Lord Raglan. We're also going to have a chat about the Mwapo of Leto, Atreides. The second skin, if you like. The skin ego, I think, is a better translation of that, which is a paper that we have by Marie Noelle Zinder, which will look at the character of the God Emperor in terms of his second skin. It's based on, I think, is it D.A. Anzu's kind of ideas of psychoanalysis, etc., that kind of thing. So we're going to do a few things just because there'll be enough to talk about quite soon, actually. And we'll consider them either as I think we might put them up possibly once that episode's done. We'll maybe put it up, I don't know, just as an intermezzo or possibly a chapter 0 primer or something like that. It's definitely going to be worth doing before we get to God Emperor of Dune. So there we go. There's Carlos Crisella saying, hey Carlos, how you doing? Thanks very much for joining us. Pardon me, good to have you here. I've been absorbing quite a wee bit of science fiction lately, especially the other week when I hurt my back. Managed to get a few books read. I got through The Stainless Steel Rat and The Stainless Steel Rat Saves the World. Missing The Stainless Steel Rat's Revenge there, sadly enough, which were both very, very enjoyable. I've been on a little bit of a run of comedy science fiction lately. Pretty much since we did we had a wee bit of an hour about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that kind of thing, you know. Yeah, what else? I've caught the new episodes of Foundation, and I've seen Murderbot. What else have we seen? I caught the new episode of South Park tonight. That was funny. So yeah, I've been delving into all sorts of science fiction, and I'll be going to see a show very, very shortly. Fingers crossed, I might possibly have a wee review of it for you as well. So busy, and hopefully have a new audio recording coming to the station very quickly as well. So yes, indeed. So let's get cracking with we're on chapter 8, folks. This book here, chapter 48, sorry, is page 318. So we are starting to hurtle towards the end of the book. We're into the final run of it, and we do have quite a lengthy chapter in chapter 49. I think I miscounted. I thought it had only 8 pages. In fact, it had 10 and a bit, you know. There's Cynthia saying, hi Doc, hi all, hi Cynthia, thanks very much for joining us as always. Yes, I'm doing all sorts of reading and investigating. Chaya has sent me some stuff as well, basically looking into the harem mystery. I mean, we're going to have him mentioned a couple more times before the end of the book. And again, I think I'll either I'll either bring up my conclusions by that point at the time when he's mentioned, which is near the end of the book, or I simply will present all the options. And I think it might be a case of that. I think that we could. There's a number of people that it could possibly be. And I still can't find any evidence for my previous assertion, which is not good. But I'm happy enough. That's fair enough. I don't know what's happened there, but we'll investigate anyway. And there's Carlos Crucelis, and I've been watching Sandman. Not bad, Carlos. Watching the Sandman late at night is why I wrecked my back because I have a new chair, um, and so it was. I was watching it and. Basically binge watched it, didn't I? Sitting in this chair without the cushion, the lumbar support, and curled up on it, kind of thing, because it's a bit of a roomy chair, and it's a chair for big tall people like myself, you know. And that's why I absolutely wrecked myself. Yes, so I've seen the first batch, and I suppose I enjoyed them enough. I think there's things that they've changed that I didn't see the point of changing, or simply dropped. I was kind of looking forward to seeing Kane being flown over hell by this, but that didn't happen, sadly. Um, but yeah, it's a build up. I would argue, Carlos, I don't have a copy anymore. I've got a bunch of the Sandman books. I've about 5 or 6 of them. I lent a few to somebody a long time ago, never got them back. But my favourite one would be probably the Season of Mists. Um, to be honest with you, you know. But yeah, it's not too bad. I've enjoyed it enough, I think. But it's they've pretty much brought it to a halt, I think, haven't they? This will be the last season of it, you know. But yeah, and as it was a Midsummer Night's Dream, I thought was quite good. So yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's yeah, I've been catching quite a fair bit of stuff at the moment. I watched I've seen some really bad science fiction and fantasy films lately as well. They're being laid up with a sore back. I sort of tend to I like to gravitate when I'm not too well. I have to watch TV in bed or something like that. I tend to gravitate towards old B movies and things like that. But I saw a Canadian science fiction film recently on Amazon Prime, and it was an absolute howler. And it kind of had, like, sort of recognizable names, and I can't remember what you called it. Something like Space Bubblegum or something like that. Let me see. I'll tell you what. I know who was in it. Hang on. Amanda Tapping was in it. And I thought, okay, what's this? It was supposed to be funny. Dear. What did I watch? Space Milkshake, 2012. Cast features Billy Boyd, Robin Dunn, Kristen Crook, and Amanda Tapping. And it was a bad film. It's really awful. But there we go. So that's my science fiction and fantasy input at the moment. And I've been reading. What else have I been reading? A wee bit of. Been trying to get through Thomas More's Utopia again, and reading some Clark Ashton Smith as well. So all over the place at the moment. And I'm still trying to get the Lensman books finished as well. Goodness gracious. Right, here we go, folks. Here's chapter 8. I've kind of put at the top of this, what title would I give it? But I've gone with Farad'n imprinted, ? Epigraph 48, here we go. There exist obvious higher order influences in any planetary system. This is often demonstrated by introducing terraform life onto newly discovered planets. In all such cases, the life in similar zones develops striking similarities of adaptive form. This form signifies much more than shape. It connotes a survival organization and a relationship of such organizations. The human quest for this interdependent order and our niche within it presents a profound necessity. The quest can, however, be perverted into a conservative grip on sameness. That has always proved deadly for the entire system. This is from the Dune catastrophe after Harq al-Ada. And I would make note of the word catastrophe there. A sudden downturn of events, isn't it? First of all, I suppose within that I've made a few notes. Introducing terraform life to a newly discovered planet. I've written next this is a terrible idea where life already exists. Relationship of such organizations, the survival organization, etc. I've kind of said this before. I mean, it's around at the time and it's been around for a while there, but I get a sense of what I would call object-oriented systems thinking, if you like, relationships, entities. From Frank here when we're talking about the natural world. The human quest, I suppose, which is how he defines it here, is our niche within, how to find our niche within systems as above described. And what else do we have here? The catastrophe. Yes, the sense is that this is deadly for the entire system. Catastrophic, it's bad. We've seen examples of introducing species to various places. I suppose the one that I talked about within the evolution, ecology, and messianic hero engine was the cane toad being introduced into Australia. Was quite bad, wasn't it? Interestingly enough, by the way, folks, I don't think I mentioned this. Did I make a bookmark? Let me see. Yeah, I did. Hang on. Bear with me a wee second. See if I can get a copy of this for you. Something very interesting in terms of, I suppose, what we're talking about and evolution. Now, where did I put this? I created a new folder. Goodbye. There we go. Here's a wee link for you. Interestingly enough, I suppose here and in a number of countries we've had a problem with the ash dieback problem. I suppose we've had a problem with that problem, which is it's a fungal species that's kind of wrecking the ash trees here. It's accounting for about 90% of the species here. What I've given you there is a wee thing from New Scientist, I think. In the sense, it's evolution happening within a generation, and an evolutionary sort of defense against this thing in the offspring, if you like, in the saplings of these trees. So it's a wee quick few minutes about particularly that from New Scientist. And Carlos is saying Florida Everglades are another prime example. Yeah. So it that was, I think this is just the other week, that video. I think it's pretty new. Let me just quickly have a look. So it's just in relation to what we've got going on here. I know it's happening in other places. And the ash dieback is as a result of a foreign species, isn't it? It's and I think the suggestion in the video that I've pasted a link there for you is that these new saplings will be able to be kind of bred back into the I suppose the invasive species, if you like, to develop a resistance, a generational resistance against the ash dieback, the fungus. I suppose the problem is the problem. Sorry, let me have a wee look here again. Oh, we've got the wrong folder. So that there was how ash trees are combating deadly dieback fungal invasion 4 weeks ago. Yeah, on the New Scientist website. So it's research by scientists at the Botanic Gardens in Kew, who used to live not far from there, and Queen Mary University of London, indicates that natural selection is acting to combat ash dieback, a fungal disease that has devastated ash trees across Europe. By comparing the DNA of ash trees established before and after the fungal invasion, researchers found that DNA evolution was a driver of resistance in younger Ashtrays, offering hope for the survival of Ashtrays in the future. So there you go. And it's a thing that's happened kind of within the last generation. It's a very recent thing, you know. So it's an example, just an example of evolution at work in the very, very short term. So the Dune catastrophe is the title to this. There exists obvious higher order influences in any planetary system. This is often demonstrated by introducing terraform life onto newly discovered planets. In all such cases, the life in similar zones develops striking similarities of adaptive form. It sounds a bit Platonic in some ways to me as well. This form simplifies much more than shape. It connotes a survival organization. So the idea is that if you put we've got a magic new planet here to develop. Let's bring some squirrels from Earth here, drop those squirrels on the planet, and the idea is that they'll probably seek and find out something similar to a squirrel and start adapting to its environment in the same way that other things that look a bit like it happen to do so on the planet in question. And it signifies more than shape. It's not just about similar shapes. It connotates a survival organization and a relationship of such organizations. So it's very much systems thinking here. And then the human quest within all this is to find our niche within it, and it represents a profound necessity. However, it can be perverted pardon me, into a conservative grip on sameness that has always proved deadly for the entire system. So change within the system is desirable, I suppose, but in terms of this, the human quest for our place within that order, sameness, keeping things the way they are, is bad for a system. I think is pretty much what we're saying there within this. And again, it's presenting this kind of, I think, this kind of planetary systemic, how we put it, terraforming, using terraform life in this sense means in the shape of life from Earth, if you like. Yeah, it's an odd little thing. And I wonder what, in a sense, I wonder, can we, just before we get into the chapter, is this a consideration to do with perhaps Farad'n in a funny way? Though it has perhaps, how would I put it? Perhaps as this is coming from again after Hark al-Ada, after this historian, perhaps it's an attempt to simply present to us the imperial thinking here. I'm not too sure. Carlos is saying, would it be fair to say man himself is the ultimate invasive species? We are pretty invasive, aren't we? And there's a lot of science fiction that addresses that fact. You know, even the Matrix would go on like we're a virus, this kind of thing. So they're saying, what sort of terraform life do you think the author is talking about here? The Fremen fleeing another planet, the worms, Parokind's work, the Atreides, each one could be studied regarding systemic change. Yes, indeed. I've no idea. I just went with the squirrel as a bit of a joke there. But it's again, I just think it's life from Earth, which would include the people. Yeah. But Cynthia's quite right. Each of these things, the Fremen arriving here, and the planet changing them ultimately because they cannot leave. The worms are brought here, and they're a plant animal hybrid created in a lab from where my guess is Earth. Pardokinds, again, the ecologist who really wants to be a planetologist, the Atreides, you know, using this ecological dream really as a form of manipulation, you know. Each one could be studied regarding systemic change. Yes, indeed. And even the Harkonnens as well, Cynthia. Yes, indeed. Interesting. Right. This one probably will go quickly anyway. Here's our very short little chapter. And we are on Salusa Secundus. I suppose on the title cards I kind of jokingly did Jessica and Farad'n at Salusa, and then did Leto and Muriz at Shuloch. I was just thinking on Darmok, probably because I couldn't think of a good title for these chapters. But I've kind of on my notes I've gone with Farad'n imprinted question mark. But this will go quite quickly here. So it starts with Jessica and Farad'n talking here. So my son didn't really see the future. He saw the process of creation and its relationship to the myths in which men sleep, Jessica said. She spoke swiftly, but without appearing to rush the matter. She knew the hidden observers would find a way to interrupt as soon as they recognized what she was doing. And I've written next to this, I wonder what that is, as I make my notes. So we have a criticism, I suppose, possibly as a correction of a perception of what Paul does. My son didn't really see the future. Okay, he saw the process of creation and its relationship to the myths in which men sleep. Sounds like a lot of Bene Gesserit double talk to me. The process of creation, its relationship to the myths in which men sleep. Myths and ritual. I suppose we're going to be jumping back into that, aren't we, here? Farad'n sat on the floor, outlined in a shaft of afternoon sunlight, which slanted through the window behind him. Jessica could just see the top of a tree in the courtyard garden when she glanced across from her position standing against the far wall. It was a new Farad'n she saw, more slender, more sinewy. The months of training had worked their inevitable magic upon him. His eyes glittered when he stared at her. Now, we can get a couple of things from this, I suppose, that we can look at. One is that the months of training, so time has passed here. And we're going to go with at least 2 months minimum. And more slender, more sinewy, the months of training had worked their inevitable magic on him. His eyes glittered when he stared at her. And I'm wondering, is that infatuation? He saw the shapes which existing forces would create unless they were diverted, Jessica said. Rather than turn against his fellow men, he turned against himself. He refused to accept only that which comforted him, because that was moral cowardice. So here we actually do have a critique of Paul here. In other words, the shapes of, if you like, the forms that we're talking about that he sees, the process of creation that he goes through, is that he can see the things that other people would create unless they're diverted. So he becomes the diversion. I'm taking from that. Rather than turn against his fellow men to prevent these the things that these forces would create, I'm assuming, he turned against himself. And we generally get that this is the thing that with Paul, I suppose, that he can't give up his humanity. And we'll get to that. He refused to accept only that which comforted him, because that was moral cowardice. So I've written that hurting himself instead of his fellow man. It's a wee bit late with Paul, isn't it? It's a bit, oops, there's a lot of people dead. He turned again. He refused to accept only that which comforted him, because that was moral cowardice. I'm trying to get my head around that. It's just the phrasing of it. Except he refused to accept what comforted him, because that was moral cowardice. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. Just turf out a couple of words there. It's just trying to get the meaning there. So he refused to be comforted. He turned away, and I suppose what would comfort him in his pain and loss, I'm going to go with his family. With Chani dead, he had twins. there's other people there too. But instead he goes into the desert. Sorry, had a wee bit of bother with the language there. There's Sean saying, good evening, Doc. Good to see you. Good evening, Sean. How are you? Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good to be here. Sorry we couldn't go last night, folks. As I said, we've had to jump in tonight. But we're trying to push a few wee things at the minute and get some work done. But it was just one of those things, actually. Just a very busy week going on here. But thank you very much. As it's always good to see you all here. Anybody else out there, pipe in and say hello, folks, in YouTube land. So Farad'n had learned to listen silently, testing. Sorry, I'll read that again. Farad'n had learned to listen silently, testing, probing, holding his questions until he had shaped them into a cutting edge. She had been talking about the Bene Gesserit view of molecular memory expressed as ritual, and had quite naturally diverged to the sisterhood way of analysing Paul Muad'Dib. Farad'n saw a shadow play in her words and actions, however, a projection of unconscious forms at variance with the surface intent of her statement. So Farad'n's listening, not asking until she's not interrupting him with any questions until she's finished. What's she been talking about? The Bene Gesserit view of molecular memory expressed as ritual. Okay. Now we're getting into the ritual a bit heavy on this, aren't we? Let me see. I just need to grab a pen here, folks. Preferably one that works. I went through about 5 pens the other day. Molecular memory expressed as ritual and had quite naturally diverged to the sisterhood's way of analysing Paul Muad'Dib. So I'm guessing that's the Bene Gesserit other memory. And how they look at it, and what I'm assuming what rituals are involved within the sisterhood in relation to it. And it says that quite naturally diverged to the sisterhood's way of analysing Paul Muad'Dib. So is that what we've been presented with there? That he didn't really see the future, he saw the process of creation and its relationship to the myths in which men sleep, which would be of particular interest to the Bene Gesserit, their understanding of myths and religions, etc. These kind of stories, how to manipulate people with them is what they do. And again, how he sees the shapes of existing forces, which existing forces would create unless they were diverted, also sounds like Bene Gesserit talk, doesn't it? Pardon me, because it's the political nature of things that they intercede with. Rather than turn against his fellow man, he turned against himself. Farad'n saw a shadow play in her words and actions, however, a projection of unconscious forms at variance with the surface intent of her statements. So as much as it might be for the observers, Jessica is providing kind of, I don't know if you agree with me on this one, a Bene Gesserit point of view in relation to how she talks about Paul for the observers. We all know about the kind of the underlying intent within the language and stuff like that, that there's often, there's subtle things which the Bene Gesserit use to say a whole completely other thing. Farad'n sees the shadow play in her words, which also suggests that his training has advanced a good bit. Cynthia saying, is Jessica talking about Paul the Emperor, Paul who walked into the desert when Chani died, or Paul the preacher, if she suspects this? I also wonder if this is her own myth or who he was. Oh, sorry, of who he was. I missed the claim that this was the Bene Gesserit viewpoint. Oops. Still the question, does Jessica agree with this view? It's a really good question, because as much as what she's saying there, we can also apply that to Jessica, can't we? The moral cowardice of running out on her family. No, well, let me just check what you're saying there, Cynthia. I'm going with it's the emperor who walked into the desert. Ultimately, that was his. He walked away from it all. Wouldn't accept the comforts. This kind of thing. The criticism is, I think, is of Paul as emperor, and the fact that the moral cowardice, but is the fact that he walked away. He walked into the desert. I think it is the Bene. Does she agree with this view? I don't. I don't think so. Um, Again, I'm going to run that this is shadow play, as Farad'n is noticed. So no, I think this is an act here. Yeah. Of all our observations, this is the most crucial, she said. Life is a mask, through which the universe expresses itself. We assume that all of humankind and its supportive life forms represent a natural community, and that the fate of all life is at stake in the fate of the individual. Thus, when it comes to that ultimate self examination, the amor fati, we stop playing God and revert to teaching. In the crunch, we select individuals and we set them as free as we're able. That's an interesting little paragraph. I quite like it. Of all our observations, this is the most crucial. So, of the Bene Gesserit, what they see, this is the most important thing, that life is a mask through which the universe expresses itself. Okay. We assume that all humankind and its supportive life forms, that's a good assumption, isn't it? That all the other life forms are there to support humanity, represent a natural community, and that the fate of all life is at stake in the fate of the individual. That's an interesting concept, isn't it? Save one person, save everyone, this kind of thing. Oops, I just drawn a wee box around that. That's when it comes to that ultimate self-examination, the amor fati. We stop playing God and revert to teaching. In the crunch, we select individuals and we set them as free as we're able. It's an interesting thing, I suppose. How would I look at it? The ultimate self-examination, and the was that we have that unexamined life not being worth living. Self-examination, introspection. The amor fati is the love of fate, the love of destiny, if you like. Whenever this occurs, we stop playing God and revert to teaching. It's an interesting thing, I suppose. I keep saying that. I'm just thinking about it in relation to myself. I've kind of come to, and I don't know if I believe in fate or destiny or any of these kind of things, but I'm one of these people that's kind of had to examine his life really, really hard, especially over the last few years here. I don't know, as much as I might not have enjoyed a lot of the things that happened to me, the way I could look at it now was right place, right time, always, for me, and that everything that led me to where I am now is a good thing. That level of introspection into your own life and coming to that conclusion is the amor fati, if that makes sense. That it was all for the best. God, wasn't that a crap time in my life? But if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't be. This wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have responded that way. All of these things. That's what we call the amor fati. And that whenever this occurs, whenever we do this, we stop playing God. Fair enough, and revert to teaching, which is what I do. I don't think I've ever played God. I don't think. Not my style. In the crunch, we select individuals and we set them as free as we're able. Yeah, I suppose myself and my wife talked a wee bit about this at a certain point in life. It's useful that you accumulate information and experience, and you basically are what you would call wise, hopefully. Maybe sagacious. It's good to pass it on to the younger people, isn't it? That's kind of where I would take it, actually. And I think that's the gist of what's being said here. the most important thing. Life's a mask. It's a mystery which the universe expresses itself. The fate of all life is at stake in the fate of the individual. Don't know if you agree with that or not. Yeah. There are kind of hints of this stuff floating around, sort of some Greek philosophy, if you like. The individual and the community here, the definition, the Nicomachean ethics definition of politics is that it's the science of the happiness of man, where the happiness of the individual is subservient to the happiness of the collective. The word happiness there is eudaimonia. It's a good spirit. I think we're going to talk about the word demon actually up ahead. So yeah, in the crux of that, I suppose you can look at it in terms of Jessica. Looking at where she's got to in life, etc., etc. That through this observation is a general one. You could put her in the same point here, where she has got her amor fati, if you like, as she stopped playing God and reverted to teaching. That's what she's saying. And in the crux, we select individuals and we set them as free as we are able. This is in relation to Farad'n. This is what she's saying for the observers, the listeners. But I think the interesting thing about this paragraph, I suppose it's why I'm spending a bit of time on it, is that I think she is playing God. I think that in terms of outside of the twins' plans, the person that's been directing most of the action and intrigue, I think, in the background, really, whose plans seem to be working, who's taking out her opponents, would be Jessica. She's stopped playing God, reverts to teaching, and Farad'n is the select individual that she's set free. Now, he saw now where she had to be going, and knowing its effect upon those who watched through the spy eyes. So that was a bit of a Ghostbusters moment there, wasn't it? Who watched? That's about, was it the Ghostbusters joke? What is it? Listen, you smell something? Pardon me. I'll read that again. I need some fluids. He saw now where she had to be going, and knowing its effect upon those who watched through the spy eyes, refrained from casting an apprehensive glance at the door. Only a trained eye could have detected his momentary imbalance, but Jessica saw it and smiled. A smile, after all, could mean anything. So I'm guessing that Farad'n's momentary imbalance here is a smile, is a knowing smile. He's twigged what she's up to, if you see what I mean. And Jessica's picked up on it, his momentary imbalance. But Jessica saw it and smiled. A smile, after all, could mean anything. I think her smile is mirroring his. This is a sort of graduation ceremony, she said. I'm very pleased with you, Farad'n. Will you stand, please? We have ritual here. Again. He obeyed, blocking off her view of the treetop through the window behind him. Jessica held her arms stiffly at her side. I am charged to say this to you. I stand in the sacred human presence as I do now, so should you stand someday. I pray to your presence that this be so. The future remains uncertain, and so it should, for it is the canvas upon which we paint our desires. Thus, always the human condition faces a beautifully empty canvas. We possess only the moment in which to dedicate ourselves continuously to the sacred presence which we share and create. As Jessica finished speaking, Tyrcanic came through the door on her left, moving with a false casualness which the scowl on his face belied. My lord, he said, but it already was too late. Jessica's words and all of the preparations which had gone before had done their work. Farad'n was no longer Corrino. He was now Bene Gesserit. There we go. And I have written here, Well, pardon me. First of all, jump back a wee bit. It's again ritual, which is quite important here. We had that quest. The nation systems, etc. And we're going to see ritual very importantly in the chapter ahead. But we get a little bit of Bene Gesserit ritual here, and essentially it is a kind of educationally pass it on, isn't it? It's a, oh goodness, what do we call this? There's a term for it, isn't it? When people pass on information like that, it's a chain of something. But I think I might have something on actually up ahead, oddly enough, which is possibly would make that relevant. Then we'll see if we can find it whenever we come to it. Chain of transmitters. It's to do with, it's not in Arabic. Supporting people who pass on a tradition from original authority to the present person reciting or compiling that tradition associated with Hadith literature. It's a little bit like that, I think. I've taught you this is what she's saying in this ritual. As I do now, you should stand someday. You should perform this ritual one day too. I pray to your presence that this be so. The future remains uncertain, and so it should, for it is the canvas upon which we paint our desires. So again, is this bit here a commentary on Paul? The future, those who wish to know it. It remains uncertain, and so it should, for it is the canvas upon which we paint our desires. Thus, always the human condition faces a beautifully empty canvas. We possess only the moment in which to dedicate ourselves continuously to the sacred presence which we share and create. And that the sacred presence is mankind, as humans. So I've taught you basically, it's a sort of graduation ceremony. Stand up, recite this, and as I've done this, hopefully you'll do it for somebody one day. So he's expected to teach somebody this kind of thing himself, and whenever he's done that, do this little ceremony with him. We have a ritual for passing on information, passing on skills, the completion of Bene Gesserit Pranabindhu 101 or something like that. Well, pardon me. But what I've written here, love of this, Farad'n, I suppose, so he's being trained by her. But it's the statement at the end that is quite, isn't it? He's no longer Corrino. He was now Bene Gesserit. It reeks of, God, what do you call them? It reeks of the Jesuits. Was it their Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam motto is for the greater glory of God, but their unofficial motto is give me a child before the age of 7 and you can do what you like with him. In other words, they'll be a Christian. It doesn't matter what you do. It's a kind of, it's this kind of thing. He's no longer Corrino, no matter what. I've got give me a Farad'n before the age of 50 and you can do what you like with him because he'll be a Bene Gesserit, and he is. So his thinking has changed. She's changed him. And I suppose the question I'm wondering, for those of us familiar with the Dune series, is has Farad'n been imprinted by the Lady Jessica in a Bene Gesserit fashion? And I've written below it, not sexually, ? Probably not, because I don't think she would, with the level of observation upon her, that she would have, don't think that she would have the opportunity. I think it would have to be linguistically done. But with teaching as well, things can open people's minds and change the way they think. Pardon me. And wow, what a fast little chapter. Cynthia said, I like this chapter and how it advances the story, but it feels like a false dichotomy, especially for the Bene Gesserit. Wasn't Jessica always trying to defend her loyalty, to identify the Atreides, though she was Bene Gesserit? Identify the Atreides. Yes. I think that there's been a change here. I think, Cynthia, it's to do with with what Duncan Idaho has told her. I'm just sort of running with this. Again, I haven't read ahead. Chapter 49 is as far as I am in the book at the minute. It feels like a false dichotomy. Yeah, everything. Well, I got the sense that almost everything being said, apart from the little ritual there, apart from possibly that little section there within it, is theatre. As Farad'n says, Farad'n saw a shadow play in her words and actions. But yeah, Jessica's loyalties. I mean, is it? We had this thing about it with Leto Kynes, don't we? That Leto serves two masters, and I think certainly around this point, or up until recently, I think that's the case with Jessica. I don't, as much as her loyalty to House Atreides was brought into question in Dune by the Baron's plot. I think really it was. I think that was perpetuated really to see where it would lead to. I don't think anybody doubted her loyalty, but it's a question. I think it's always been a question of which one trumps the other, if you like. Which, in a test of loyalty, would Jessica go to the Bene Gesserit or go to the Atreides? If you see what I mean. And I got the sense that it was the Atreides that she chose, her own family. We've got these intervening years, and then we have her arrival back in this book. It's one of the reasons, Cynthia, why I love the character of Jessica. Is I still, as much as she's particularly intelligent and deadly, I still find her difficult to read. If you see what I mean, she's mysterious, and again, we get that, as you say, it's a great chapter. How it advances the story. It's got tension building. There's something almost humorous about what's been done to Farad'n in relation to what's awaiting him with Ganima. But it's possibly the thing that will save his life. But it's just that first little bit in the first part of this chapter where she knew the hidden observers would find a way to interrupt as soon as they recognized what she was doing. I wrote next that, what is that? Is this these last couple of little sentences before the ceremony here that we have in this chapter? Is this part of the imprinting process? But is it giving Farad'n a little bit of an insight into certain things? But the topics that are raised are relationships, myths, shape and form, which kind of got me down thinking about that there's some platonic stuff going on here. And we're going to be heading to a lot of that, aren't we? With the God Emperor, we're heading down the road of Aristotelian thought, Neoplatonic thought, Neoplatonic thought, Gnosticism. I thought my kind of casual reading around Dune at the minute, which I do every week, was ridiculous at the minute. It's going to get absurd. But I really like this chapter. It really does. I mean, it's got mystery in it. And as I said, possibly knowing how the Bene Gesserit operate a bit from the books a bit further down the road, how we've seen them operate, it makes me think what has been done to Farad'n. Is this just a product of education? Is there some imprinting? Has a word been suggested within him? Simply that this young man has now, who's I suppose had academic interests by the look of it, as well as those of running his house. But has it changed the way he thinks? Humans, and I still think it's very interesting. I wonder what you think about this. If in the fate of the individual, the fate of all life is in the fate of the individual. That kind of macro micro thing. I wonder what you think about that. It's an interesting statement, and it's almost kind of contrary to. I've often said this, that the definition of politics within Nicomachean ethics is it would be a lot better, and within the understanding. But was it politics is the science of the happiness of man, where the happiness of the individual is subservient to the happiness of the collective, and it's about not rising one person up above everyone else. Is what the meaning of it is. But it would be better if it had said actually that the happiness of the individual is as important as the happiness of the collective. You know, in a philosophical way, not necessarily in a fully practical way. Um, this kind of thing. This is a sort of question that's asked, that's presented by Mr. Spock and the in Star Trek. What is it? The fate of the one or the many? Is it the fate of the many outweigh the? Oh God, I can't remember that. The lives of the many outweigh the life of the one. Is that it? Something like that. God, I'm forgetting that. That's really bad of me, isn't it? Of the few or the one. That's it. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my Star Trek 2 head on there. Yeah, it's interesting that we should look after individuals. It better helps the collective, I suppose. Hmm. I don't know. I don't think we're very good at it these days. Right, folks, let me get a wee sip and we'll move on to chapter 49. Let's see, Carlos is saying, could the fact be that Paul wasn't the Bene Gesserit's Kwisatz Haderach, but something they weren't expecting, have anything to do with her return to the Bene Gesserit? Quite possibly. That's a good question, Carlos. And of course, he isn't. Well, I suppose he was their Kwisatz Haderach, but as you say, it's something. There's something else. I think all of the Kwisatz Haderachs are something more, something always unexpected about them, something different. It could well do, I suppose. I think possibly. I was thinking a wee bit about this the other day, just in relation to Alia, that conceiving Alia at the point of just about to move to Arrakis, that I think perhaps that was because that was a very deliberate thing as well, wasn't it? To choose to conceive Ali at that point, that was possibly an attempt to repair things with the breeding program. After the Reverend Mothers turned up and reminded her that you were supposed to have a girl, she goes and has one. Um, oh, thank you, Carlos. You saved me. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one of the one. Sorry, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. Spa. Good God, I went to see that when I was a kid. In the cinema, I was absolutely devastated. It's one of those films that had me coming out in tears. Um, mm. Yes, indeed. I was going to do a video on 10 sci-fi films that have me crying like a wean. Thank you, Carlos. That's exactly what I was trying. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. There's a lot of reshaping of Greek philosophy within Star Trek, isn't there? The Vulcans would very much represent your kind of Athenian logic, wouldn't they? Right. But yeah, you see, it's still we're not too sure. I honestly don't have an answer for you there, Carlos. It's a could be. But that's the thing. That's the trick with Jessica. She is still a little bit mysterious. I'm not still kind of what's she up to, and still consider her one of our heroes of the story. I consider Paul a hero as well. Same with Leto. Of course, we have Alia kind of having fallen into the role of villain here with the Baron. We kind of know who our heroes are. We kind of know what's happened to Alia become our villain. With Jessica, it's much more ambiguous, isn't it? I think, though I very much think that she's a protagonist. She's on the side of the family here. I think. Wish I still had my I Grok Spock shirt. Excellent. Yes, indeed. I Grok Spock. There's a crossover. Ah, that's interesting. And the late night, it says here just what popped up there. Grok, of course, is the term from Robert Heinlein's Strange in a Strange Land. But I just wanted to have a look at the Grok Spock there. In late 1967, during protests against cancelling Star Trek, fans popularized the term Grok Spock. The phrase appeared to continue on buttons and T-shirts. Let's see what. There we go. Bet you can probably still get them. Cars, all sorts of things. I was trying to get a Pork Chop Express T-shirt a wee while back, but alas, no. Whoa. But yes, indeed, that would be a very cool T-shirt. Now, let's see. Epigraph 49. Now, we've got a good chunk to get through with this chapter, folks. And the sun is going down. Let's see. I might need a little bit better light over here. Now, okay, enormous epigraph here. A letter to Chom attributed to the preacher. I've called this chapter Leto and Muriz at Shuloch, the cast out. So we could dedicate this one to all the cast out over at jackurutu.com and soup pot them up folks there. So the cast out indeed. Here is our epigraph, chapter 49. What you of the Chom Directorate seem unable to understand is that you seldom find real loyalties in commerce. When did you last hear of a clerk giving his life for the company? Perhaps your deficiency rests in the false assumption that you can order men to think and cooperate. This has been a failure of everything from religions to general staffs throughout history. General staffs have a long record of destroying their own nations. As to the religions, I recommend a rereading of Thomas Aquinas. As to you of Chom, what nonsense you believe. Men must want to do things out of their own innermost drives. People, not commercial organizations or chains of command, are what make great civilizations work. Every civilization depends upon the quality of the individuals it produces. If you over-organize humans, over-legalize them, suppress their urge to greatness, they cannot work and their civilization collapses. And this is a letter to Chom attributed to the preacher. Now, if you over-organize people, over-legalize them, and suppress their urge to greatness, they cannot work. And I dare say that's not what called. I don't know. It's a very odd thing to present as a cause of a civilizational collapse. Pardon me. But basically, what we're presenting here is no matter who you are, what you think, the fundamental thing that's wrong with your thinking is that you can tell people what to do, that people won't tell you where to go, that they will refuse. That it's people, individuals. Every civilization depends upon the quality of the individuals it produces. To a degree, I suppose, yeah. Now, what have we got? As to religions. So the false assumption is that you can order men to think and cooperate. So we're essentially presented with the military here and religion as two examples of this. The military does its best to sort of drum thinking out of you, and so does religion, I suppose. Pardon me. But always the problem is that people, there are always people who'll say no, or I don't believe you, or no, I'm not going to do it. But as to Chom, so we've got religion and the military, but when it comes to Chom, we're told that there are seldom any real loyalties in commerce. What nonsense you believe. Man must want to do things out of their own innermost drives. People, not commercial organizations or chains of command, are what make great civilizations work. So the nonsense that Chom believes is that it's people like Chom that make civilizations great. It's us, yeah, not the scum down on the streets. And we have a civilization within the Dune universe where Chom is a crucial part of that. Every civilization depends upon the quality of the individuals it produces. I suppose it does to a degree, and it's often a very few individuals, but I suppose again, what do we mean by civilization? You could argue, yeah, you could argue that it's the beginning of producing walls, isn't it, for mutual defense? That's one discussion on it. But there's all sorts of aspects to it, I think. Um, but over organizing, over legalizing, suppressing their urge to greatness, that cannot work, and their civilization collapses. Um, I live in arguably what you would call the last days of the British Empire. Um, it's giving away territory. It's still got Britain still has parts of its empire. It still acts like it's a major player on the world stage, which it's not. We've just brought out a law here in relation to pornography that uses facial kind of age recognition and stuff like this, or credit card verification. If you go to any website that's a pornographic website within the UK now, this thing will fly up and you'll have to be verified. And the amount of money, time, effort, nonsense that they've spent on this thing, that's meant to protect children. The VPN technology that already exists within almost every household antivirus firewall security system, it just bypasses it as a completely pointless waste of time. Absolutely ridiculous. But Britain, you could argue, Great Britain, over organized, over legalized, so many laws that you lose sight of any sense of the law. To suppress the urge to greatness. The urge to greatness is kind of that Britain's its golden time is gone. Um, I often get a sense within British culture, and particularly within Northern, we could get a lot of this in Northern Ireland. This kind of looking to the past, to the golden age of Britain, which is generally perceived as during I suppose the interwar years, World War I to World War II, inclusive, I think. And then Britain's been in a state of decline since World War II, but we're supposed to be one of the most taxed and one of the most tested societies in the world. And there's not a lot of nothing new coming out of Britain, nothing much at all. Pardon me. Mm. So it's not people, it's not commercial, it's people. Sorry, it is people. It's not commercial organizations. Um, you know, big, commercial organized, big corporations these days. This kind of thing. It's not its governments, it's not religion, it's not the army, it's not the military. It's individuals that make your civilization work, that it depends on, that give it quality. And whenever you basically crap all over them, your civilization collapses. But it says that you suppress their urge to greatness. And I don't know, would that be conservatism, just to be happy with what you've got and to maintain what you've got, and not to look for any more, just to, would that be that? I suppose. I don't know. So that's our introductory letter. And it is a letter to Joe attributed to the preacher. Thomas Aquinas, then, his dates are 1225 to the 7th of March, 1274. He was a Dominican friar and priest, theologian, philosopher, author, and doctor of the church. It's been asked to religions. I recommend a rereading of Thomas Aquinas here. If you want to check him out on Wikipedia, he's quite an interesting chap. Wrote all sorts of things. In particular, some of his books here I've scribbled is that he's a person who kind of critiqued the works of Aristotle a lot. So on the principles of nature, the Aristotelian, we've got magic and its practitioners, commentaries on Aristotle. Thomism is associated with him. And two of his other books, I suppose, a book on truth, and the main one that he's known for, which are his systematic works, is called the Summa Theologica. So that's Thomas Aquinas. I've written see Wiki because there's an awful lot of stuff on him. Italian priest, there he is. Let's just have a wee quick read his blurb. Italian Dominican friar and priest, foremost scholastic thinker, as well as one of the most influential philosophers and theologians in the Western tradition. A doctor of the church, he is from the county of Aquino in the kingdom of Sicily. He was a proponent of natural theology and the father of a school of thought which encompassing both theology and philosophy known as Thomism. He argued that God is the source of the light of natural reason and the light of faith. He embraced several ideas put forward by Aristotle and attempted to synthesize Aristotelian philosophy with the principles of Christianity. He's been described as the most influential thinker of the medieval period and the greatest of the medieval philosopher theologians. His best known works are the unfinished Summa Theologica, or Summa Theologiae, dates for that are 1265 to 1274. The disputed questions on truth and the Summa contra Gentes. His commentaries on Christian scripture and on Aristotle also form an important part of his body of work. He's also notable for his Eucharistic hymns, which form a part of the church's liturgy. Doctor meaning teacher in the proper sense there. Angelic doctor, etc. Blah blah blah. So there's tons on him there. And I suppose natural philosophy, a more natural way of living with the world, looking at the world, etc., etc. I don't know too much about him, but that's what I scribbled down that I thought was relevant. But yeah, he's prolific, isn't he? He's an awful lot of writing. List of works by Thomas Aquinas. 2014, 39 out of a projected 50 volumes have been published. Anyway, I think possibly the thing that we're referring to there would be the Summa Theologiae. Scholastic theology is a compendium of all the main theological teachings of the Catholic Church, intended to be an instructional guide for theology students, including seminarians and the literate laity, presenting the reasoning for almost all points of Christian theology in the West. Topics of the Summa follow the following cycle: God, creation, man, man's purpose, Christ, the sacraments, and back to God. So as I said, it's a systemic work and has a kind of cyclical approach to all of that. Anyway, I shall leave that up to you folks if you want to read a bit further on that. Now, let's see. So here we have Leto in the desert. And last time we left him, he was buried in his still tent as this gigantic storm approached. So Leto came out of the trance with a softness of transition which did not define one condition as separate from another. One level of awareness simply moved into the other. He knew where he was. A restoration of energy surged through him, but he sensed another message from the stale deadliness of the oxygen-depleted air within the still tent. If he refused to move, he knew he would remain caught in the timeless. Sorry, I'll read that again. If he refused to move, he knew he would remain caught in the timeless web, the eternal now, where all events coexisted. This prospect enticed him. He saw time as a convention shaped by the collective mind of all sentience. Time and space were categories imposed on the universe by his mind. He is but to break free of the multiplicity where prescient visions lured him. Bold selection could change provisional futures. I'll read that again. Sorry, I didn't read that very well. He had but to break free of the multiplicity where prescient visions lured him. Bold selection could change provisional futures. Yeah. That was a full stop there. Bold selection could change provisional futures. Sorry about that. Let me grab a pen. Thought I had a comma there. It's just a wee bit of another letter sticking up in there. What boldness did this moment require? Just that he saw time as a convention shaped by the collective mind of all sentience. Time and space were categories imposed on the universe by his mind. Interesting. What boldness did this moment require? The trance state lured him like a trap. Leto felt that he had come from the Alam al-Mithal into the universe of reality only to find them identical. He wanted to maintain the Rihani magic of this revelation, but survival demanded decisions of him. His relentless taste for life sent its signals along his nerves. Excuse me, my throat's going there. Pardon me. Now, we've had a few of these terms before, Rihani magic, a couple of times. We've talked about this in the past, and the Alam al Maithil is this kind of world between worlds, if you like. I think the best description of it is like the dream world. Pardon me, between the universe, what we call the universe of reality, I suppose, and the spiritual realm. Would that make sense? Between those is the Alam al Maithil, this kind of reality where anything's possible. It sounds very much to me like the dream state, if you like. Pardon me. So it's almost that he can't. He's been in the Amal al Maithil. He's been in this dream world, preserving his breath, slowing his heart so he can survive in the tent. And as he's woken up, it seems that there's no distinction between the dream world and his reality. I think that's what I'm getting from that. Abruptly, he reached out his right hand to where he had left the sand compaction tool. Pardon me. He gripped it. Hiccups. He gripped it, rolled onto his stomach, and breached the tent's sphincter. A pool of sand drifted across his hand. Working in darkness, goaded by the stale air, he worked swiftly, tunneling upward at a steep angle. 6 times his body length he went before he broke out into darkness and clean air. He slipped out onto the moonlit wind face of a long carving dune, found himself about a third of the way from the dune's top. I've done a diagram. Basically, we're about to get a whole pile of. All right, I'll go that way. Oh, there we go. Got some stuff on here. So it was the second moon above him. It moved swiftly across him, departing beyond the dune, and the stars were laid out above him like bright rocks beside a path. The wanderer found it and let his gaze. Sorry, let me read that again. I missed a bit. Leto searched for the constellation of the wanderer, found it, and let his gaze follow the outstretched arm to the brilliant glittering of the Fomal Haut, the polar star of the south. Fomal Haut is a proper star. It's Alpha Pisci Austrini. It's the 18th brightest in the star in the sky, and I've never seen it because it's in the southern sky, isn't it? I just got here. It's the brightest star. It's known as the mouth of the whale or the mouth of the fish in Arabic. It's the brightest star in the southern fish. It's a Class A star, 25 light years from Sol. Part of a triple star system, which are Fomal Haut B and C. Class A means it's white or bluish white, has a dust ring and maybe planets. It's compared to, if you look this up, you might like this, by the way. Got this, is it by New Scientist? It's compared to the Eye of Sauron. And if you have a nosy at it, you'll see why. Let's see, Fomal Haut turns up a wee bit in science fiction. It's the home of Cthulhu in Lovecraft's mythos. Roscannon's World by Ursula K. Le Guin set there. And Return from the Stars by Stanisław Lem is also set there. So there we go. So the Wanderer is the constellation of the Wanderer. We don't have a constellation like that. Was it the old Greek word for planet is Wanderer? It means Wanderer, doesn't it? I think. So he's kind of popped out about 2/3 up the dune, a third from the top. It's a nice clear night. The second moon's up there. He uses the constellation of the Wanderer to find Fomal Haut, which is the pole star here in the south of Arrakis. Great details, isn't it? There's your damned universe for you, he thought. Seen close up, it was a hustling place, like the sand all around him, a place of change, of uniqueness piled upon uniqueness. Seen from a distance, only the patterns lay revealed, and those patterns tempted one to belief in absolutes. In absolutes we may lose our way. This made him think of the familiar warning from a Fremen ditty: who loses his way in the Tanzarut loses his life. I'll read that again, so as my handwriting was disrupting it. That looked like something different. In absolutes we may lose our way. This made him think of the familiar warning from a Fremen ditty: who loses his way in the Tanzarut loses his life. The patterns could guide and they could trap. One had to remember that patterns change. So this is the sort of place where if you sort of see that, oh, there might be patterns here. If you get used to them, if you just take them as absolute, would that be inductive reasoning? Just because this thing happens today and yesterday, it will happen tomorrow. Not necessarily so. So the patterns could guide and they could trap. One had to remember that patterns change. He took a deep breath, stirred himself into action. Sliding back down his passage, he collapsed the tent, brought it out, and repacked the frame kit. Sorry, I should have pointed out again that this is another one of these. Well, as much as we said it when he went in the previous time, as he comes out here, this is a rebirth, if you like, for Leto the Second. Patterns could guide and they could trap. One had to remember that patterns change. He took a deep breath, stirred himself into action. Sliding back down his passage, he collapsed the tent, brought it out, and repacked the frame kit. A wine glow began to develop along the eastern horizon. He shouldered the pack, climbed to the dune crest, and stood there in the chill pre-dawn air until the rising sun felt warm on his right cheek. He stained his eye pits then to reduce reflection, knowing that he must woo the desert now rather than fight her. When he had put the stain back into the pack, he slipped from one of his catch tubes, drew in a sputtering of drops, and then air. So this is Namri's sabotage from before. I've just written from chapter 20, chapter 45. Let's have a wee look at 27, just to remind us. Jumping all the way back. Where are we? That's too far back. Let's see. I said it was 45. Yeah. This was with Leto escaping, Halleck saying he's very weak. Namri said, only in his body. Namri said, he won't go far though. I disabled the heel pumps of his still suit. He'll die with no water if we don't find him. So this is the consequence of Namri's sabotage. He slipped from one of his catches, he put the stain back in the pack. He slipped from one of his, no, that should be sipped, shouldn't it? Let me just check that, sorry. Yeah, sipped, not slipped. Where are we? Oh, that pen is rubbish, hang on. Sipped, there we go. He sipped from one of his catch tubes, drew in a sputtering of drops, and then air. Dropping to the sand, he began going over his still suit, coming at last to the heel pumps. They had been cut cleverly with a needle knife. He slipped out of the suit and repaired it, but the damage had been done. At least half of his body's water gone. Were it not for the still tent's catch. He mused on this as he donned the suit, thinking how odd it was that he had not anticipated this. Here was an obvious change of visionless future. So I've written next this, that preempts the reader's questions by Frank, doesn't it, really? Because that's exactly what I was thinking, was how's he not seen this? Here was an obvious danger of visionless future. So it's a little I suppose it's a little problem, if you like, if you think about it in relation to Leto's abilities. It's a thing that we might ask and go, hey, what's going on here as readers? But Frank kind of preempts that and deals with it for us. And again, it helps with the tension. With you can't, if he knows everything that's going to happen, it wouldn't make for a very good adventure, would it? It would just be too dangerous, too super, if you like. Often the problem with superheroes, isn't it? They're just too good at what they do. There's not much of a challenge. Um, hmm. Leto squatted on the dune top, then pressed himself against the loneliness of this place. He let his gaze wander, fishing in the sand for a whistling vent, any irregularity of the dunes which might indicate spice or worm activity. But the storm had stamped its uniformity upon the land. Presently he removed the thumper from the kit, armed it, and sent it rotating to call Shai Hulud from his depths. He then moved off to wait. I've got some good wee worm doodles here. The worm was a long time coming. He heard it before he saw it, and turned eastward where the earth-shaking susurration made the air tremble, waited for the first glimpse of orange from the mouth rising out of the sand. The worm lifted itself from the depths in a gigantic hissing of dust which obscured its flanks. The curving grey wall swept past Leto, and he planted his hooks, went up the side in easy steps. He turned the worm southward in a great curving track as he climbed. Let me just see. Yeah, I didn't think that flowed particularly well. The curving grey wall swept past Leto when he planted his hooks, went up the side in easy steps. He turned the worm southward in a great curving track as he climbed. It's not too bad, I suppose. Maybe just the way I read it. Yeah, because I thought there's some. Yeah, it's not actually, probably it's just the way I read it. Some not bad writing there from Frank. I love that. There's some good language there. Some onomatopoeic stuff there. Susurration's a great word, isn't it? Susurration. That's it's whispering or rustling sound. Susurration. mm. So we got a little bit of new information here, a subcategory of worm, if you like, which I think is interesting. Under his goading hooks, the worm picked up speed. Wind whipped his robe against him. He felt himself to be goaded as the worm was goaded, an intense current of creation in his loins. Each planet has its own period, and each life likewise, he reminded himself. Ooh, let me color that. Oh, sorry. Each planet has its own period, and each life likewise. Intense current of creation in his loins. Planetary creation, I think, is what we're talking about there. The worm was a type Fremen called a growler. It frequently dug in its foreplates while the tail was driving. This produced rumbling sounds and caused part of its body to rise clear of the sand in a moving hump. It was a fast worm, though, and when they picked up a following wind, the furnace exhalation of his tail sent a hot breeze across him. It was filled with acrid odors carried on the freshet of oxygen. Again, some interesting language here from Frank, and a little bit of info. So what we've got is this big type of worm. We're told that it has these little four plates at the front of it, where that pile into the ground. Where we get the grounder? All right, dug in its for where the tail was driving, and we get again that the tail has exhalation from it. Fast worm. When they picked up a following wind, the furnace exhalation of his tail sent a hot breeze across him. It was filled with acrid odors on the freshet of oxygen. Freshet is flood water, or over what do you call it, melted snow water, etc., that carries down into a river, floods it. It's a rush of fresh water then into the sea. So another term, it's a watery term, if you like. Another term would be like a flash flood or an inundation for a freshet. It was filled with acrid odors carried on the inundation of oxygen, for example. So I I did, as much as I like to get my wee doodles in. You can see I have adjusted the tail to have a wee fart. There we go. And I've done a wee grind. There's my grinder with Leto. Sorry, it's not my grinder. Dear, oh dear. So, worms fart oxygen. Is we're getting little things here, aren't we, from the little tidbits about the worms as we go through the books. Whenever I was doing the work on the worms to get the life cycle, it took all 6 books, I think, to get the information out of it, and it has no. As I've put up the wee chart a few times. The worm is, in terms of a flow diagram, etc. It's an introduced vector. So it's from somewhere else, you know. I still think, folks, if you have a look at the back of Tiger, the star's my destination. The planet Arrakis is there basically, Canopus, and there's a worm-like creature on a beach. It's a place that Gullyfoyle visits, and it just stinks of, I don't know, an influence on Frank Herbert, perhaps. Um, hmm. First time I read Tiger, I had not read Dune. And the second time I read Tiger was when I went, what's this? What the heck? Is this a sandworm from Dune? Is that what we're seeing here? And I really do think it is. If you want to know where did it come from? But it's the way it's described. We've talked about it a few times here. If anybody's not read it, Tiger, Stars My Destination, got a video on the channel. It's a cracking sci-fi book, one of the best. So, as the worms fed southward, Leto allowed his mind to run free. He tried to think of this passage as a new ceremony for his life, one which kept him from considering the price he'd have to pay for his golden path. Yeah. There's going to be a price. A new ceremony for his life. Ceremonies, rituals. Like the Fremen of old, he knew he'd have to adopt many new ceremonies to keep his personality from dividing into its memory parts, to keep the ravening hunters of his soul forever at bay. Contradictory images, never to be unified, must now be insisted in a living tension, a polarizing force which drove him from within. And we get Leto's thoughts here. Always newness, he thought. I must always find the new threads out of my vision. Pardon me. Fluids, right. So off he goes on his worm. Yeah, giddy up. And as he's thinking, need a new ceremony for this new life of mine. And ceremonies, and what he's talking about is to keep the personalities in check within the other memory. And I suppose the way he describes it is it's like insisting them the way the worms do with the water. Contradictory images, never to be unified, must now be insisted in a living tension, a polarizing force which drove him from within. Ravening hunters of his soul. Pardon me. Excuse me. I'm not just sure if that's just keep his personality from dividing into its memory parts. Yeah, I think that is to do with the personalities, but also possibly images which might lead to or contradict, I suppose, a path um, that he might be trying to take towards the golden path. Does that make sense? His thoughts are, I've always got, pardon me, always got to do the new thing. Always newness, he thought. I must always find the new threads out of my vision. In the early afternoon, his attention was caught by a protuberance ahead and slightly to the right of his course. Slowly, the protuberance became a narrow butte, an upthrust rock precisely where he'd expected it. And we get his thoughts again here. Now, Namri, now, Sabiha, let us see how your brethren take to my presence, he thought. This was a most delicate thread ahead of him, dangerous more for its lures than its open threats. The butte was a long time changing dimensions, and it appeared for a while that it approached him instead of approaching it. The worm, tiring now, kept veering left. Leto slid down the immense slope to set his hooks anew and keep the giant on a straight course. A soft sharpness of melange came to his nostrils, the signal of a rich vein. They passed the leprous blotches of violet sand where a spice blow had erupted, and he held the worm firmly until they were well past the vein. The breeze, redolent with the gingery odor of cinnamon, pursued them for a time until Leto, I've got Leo in my copy, until Leto rolled the worm onto its new course, headed directly toward the rising butte. Abruptly, colours blinked far out on the southern blade, the unwary rainbow flashing of a man-made artifact in that immensity. Pardon me, I'll read that again. That was awful. Abruptly, colours blinked far out on the southern blade, the unwary rainbow flashing of a man-made artifact in that immensity. He brought up his binoculars, focused the oil lenses, and saw in the distance the outbanking wings of a spice scout glittering in the sunlight. Beneath it, a big harvester dwindled to a speck, and he felt himself overcome by Hadadhab, the immense omnipresence of the desert. It told him how these spice hunters would see him, a dark object between desert and sky, which is the Fremen symbol for man. I like that. A dark object between desert and sky. So a dark object in between. They'd seen him, of course, and they'd be cautious. They'd wait. Fremen were always suspicious of one another in the desert until they recognized the newcomer or saw for certain that he posed no threat. Even with the fine patina of imperial civilization and its sophisticated rules, they remained half-tamed savages, aware always that a crysknife dissolved at the death of its owner. And Leto's thoughts here is that is what can save us. Leto thought that wildness. Now, back a wee bit there. We had the word Hadhab, Hadhdhab. I've got nothing on that at all. Google's AI seems to think it's a made-up word. That's blah blah blah. I've got nothing on it at all. But we can take it to mean the immense omnipresence of the desert. I don't know if anybody's got any clues about it. But yeah, it's I've written made up next to it, question mark. It's very rare that we get Hadhab. I don't know, a made up word. So I'll maybe see if I can find anything else. But yeah, it's a bizarre word, isn't it? Carlos said it seems that the last book got away from the man as an ecological agent of change aspect of the Dune saga. Cindy saying, did I miss a line? Quite possibly. My text has beneath it a big harvester was shedding its wings like a chrysalis. Right, bear with me. Spice Scout 20. Let's have a look. Could you, after Big Harvester, Bojack saying same Cynthia. After Big Harvester, there was some missing text. Right, bear with me, folks. My wings of the Spice Scout have a lot of spice on it. Oh, right. Could you tell me what paragraph that starts, please? This looks like I might. Abruptly colours blinked. Thank you very much. Breaking wings of a Spice Scout or something. Beneath it, the big harvester dwindled to a speck. That's 20. Right, sorry, on the wrong page. Here we are. And he felt himself overcome by the horror, the immense omnipresence of the desert, and told him how those spice hunters would see him. Sorry, bear with me a wee second, folks. Supposed to get those. After Big Harvester, there was some missing text. Do you have a missing? Beneath it, the Big Harvester was shedding its wings. I don't have it. What I've got is beneath it, a big harvester dwindled to a speck. Yeah, let me just check. Thank you. That looks like something is possibly missing from this text. Let me grab another one. Let's see. Children of Dune. Well, it should be Hadhadam. Should be easy to find. Right. And find. Bear with me a second, folks. AD. Right, there you are. Yeah, I've got that here. Right, we've got a difference in text here, folks. Yeah, let's see. Scout glittering in the sunlight. Where are we? I better get a highlighter for this. Highlighter of unusual color. Right, let me see. Beneath it, a big harvester. So I've got in my copy of the book, beneath it, a big harvester dwindled to a speck. And then in this version, I've got an online copy here. It says, beneath it, a big harvester was shedding its wings like a chrysalis before lumbering off. That's right. It's before that word. And he felt himself overcome by the horror. Right. That's missing. Right, there's the next bit. Beneath it, a big harvester dwindled to a speck. So what we've got is beneath a big harvester. Now, from then on, so what we've got on my copy of the text is beneath it, a big harvester, and then it jumps immediately to the word dwindled to a speck. So it's left, my copy of the book does not have, was shedding its wings like a chrysalis before lumbering off. When Leto lowered the binoculars, the harvester dwindled to a speck. Right, that's appalling. That's completely missing. Yeah, just, hang on. Wow. Okay. Just to show you folks. There we go, if you can see. So quite a bit missing between harvester and dwindled there. Wow, thank you very much. I'll make it. Let me see. I'm gonna have to write that out again. I'll do it at the back of the chapter. Let me see. Thanks, great. That's a huge chunk of text to be missing. Right. Goodness gracious me. Right, there's room to put it in there. The back of it. Note 22. A big harvester. That'll start it. I'll fill that in later on. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's not me for once. Well, I'm not that bad. That's my copy of the text, folks. It's a big chunk missing. Beneath it, a big harvester was shedding its wings. Let's see. Let me just right here back up. Let me just back up. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, it's completely missing from my text. That's not a Rust mistake, I'm afraid. So did you miss a line? No, I didn't. My text says beneath it a big harvester shedding its wings. That's it. So same Cynthia says Bojack after big harvester with some missing text. Paragraph starts with abruptly colors blinked. Lord Kronk says I don't have the wings line in my copy. A harvester with wings. Yeah, it's missing. What we've got is beneath it a big harvester. At that point, basically, Lord Kronk. There's between the word harvester and dwindled. Is about as all of that other stuff about the chrysalis, about a sentence and a half missing from your copy and mine. So I have an electronic copy here, which I think is a Berkeley. So I just checked it, and it is in it there. So what it should say is beneath it, a big harvester was shedding its wings like a chrysalis before lumbering off. When Leto lowered the binoculars, the harvester dwindled to a speck. There we go. Thank you very much. I need to mark actually where this is. Hang on. There it is there. All right, good. Yeah, missing text. Dear oh dear. Chrysalis before lumbering off. Bojack says beneath it a big harvester was shedding its wings like a chrysalis before lumbering off. When Leto lowered the binoculars, the harvester dwindled to a speck. Yes, indeed. My copy of the book that this is missing is this one. So thank you very much, folks. Well spotted, by the way. So they said, I like the chrysalis image. It develops the rebirth theme. Yes. It would be nice to have known about it. And Lord Kronk said, I've got dwindled to a speck, and he felt himself overcome by the Hadoram. Yes, indeed, that's what I have. So just there's a chunk missing in between that there. Dear oh dear, it is appalling. Some of them. I don't know how many times I've said it now, but I suppose it's whenever you encounter them. Some of these mistakes are absence of text or punctuation's been changed, letters have been changed, spelling's been changed, character names have been changed, bits of text are missing, bits of text have been moved. I don't know. I really do wonder who has done this. And why? And was it an attempt to fix the book? Seeing that it is easy enough to make mistakes, you know. Hence, something like this, two heads would be better than one. As we are proving, many heads are better than one, aren't they? Thank you very much. That was well spotted. And yes, a chrysalis image indeed would be with rebirth. There we go. Thanks. Well spotted, folks. So beneath it, a big harvester dwindled. Oh, hang on. Beneath it, a big harvester was shedding its wings like a chrysalis before lumbering off. When Leto lowered the binoculars, the harvester dwindled to a speck, and he felt himself overcome by the Hadoram, the immense omnipresence of the desert. I'll read on just from there. It told him how those spice hunters would see him, a dark object between desert and sky, which was the Fremen symbol for man. They'd seen him, of course, and they'd be cautious. They'd wait. Fremen were always suspicious of one another in the desert until they recognized the newcomer or saw for certain that he posed no threat. Even within the fine patina of imperial civilization and its sophisticated rules, they remained half-tamed savages, aware always that a crysknife dissolved at the death of its owner. And Leto's thoughts here were that that's what can save us. Leto thought that wildness, that's us caught up there. That's what can save us, as a use of plural pronoun there. Patina is a great word. I love the sound of the word patina. It's that kind of sheen, isn't it? That oh goodness, my wife's tormenting me. I can smell sausages. It's that kind of sheen that old antiques and things have. Metallic sheen, a patina, isn't it? Yeah, worn look, if you like. In the distance, the Spice Scout banked right, then left, a signal to the ground. He imagined the occupants scanning the desert behind him for sign that he might be more than a single rider on a single worm. Leto rolled the worm to the left, held it until it had reversed its course, dropped down the flank, and leaped clear. The worm, released from his goading, sulked on the surface for a few breaths, then sank its front third and lay there recuperating, a sure sign that it had been ridden too long. I thought it was quite funny. He turned away from the worm. It would stay there now. The scout was circling its crawler, still giving wing signals. They were smuggler paid renegades for certain, wary of electronic communications. The hunters would be on spice out there. That was the message of that crawler's presence. The scout circled once more, dipped its wings, came out of the circle, and headed directly for him. He recognized it for a type of light thopter his grandfather had. His grandfather had introduced on Arrakis. You may ask which one. A light kind of thopter that his grandfather had introduced on Arrakis. It could mean either Leto the First or Late Kynes. And I got the sense that it might have been Late Kynes we were talking about here, because the light thopters, for ecological use, that kind of thing. I might be wrong, but just his grandfather is ambiguous, isn't it? The craft circled once above him, went out along the dune where he stood, and banked to land against the breeze. It came down within 10 meters of him, stirring up a scattering of dust. The door on his side cracked enough to emit a single figure in a heavy Fremen robe with a spear symbol at the right breast. Oh, right. Right, spears. Symbolically, I suppose. Let's see. Spears are phallic symbols, and genetically speaking, these are terms that are used within Dune. Genetically speaking, if we're referring to the female side of a family, we call it the distaff side, and the opposite side of that, the male family, is the spear side. I don't know, we've got lots of different spears. Ahastas, there's pilums, there's the Roman spear, the Dore is the Greek spear. Yeah. Oh, was it in Ireland we've got the gay bolg or the gay bolga, which is a vicious thing. Associated with Cuchulainn, and well, as it's I'm trying to remember. Bear with me a second. Spear of the Sun. Yeah, there's all sorts of spears. Gay bulb. What have we got? Spear of mortal pain or death. Grip, gapped notched spear. Or belly spear was the name of the spear of Cuchulainn in the Ulster cycle of Irish mythology. Is given to him by his martial arts teacher, the warrior woman Scathach, and his technique was taught only to him. Yeah, it's meant to be like, if you pull it out, it'll rip everything out. One of those kind of things. There's the spear of Lug and spears. Yeah, So I don't know quite why the spear symbol with this individual. Um, I said spears represent their phallic symbols. They represent male fertility, power, and genetically speaking, the male line as well. Got dwindled to a speck, and he felt himself overcome by the Hadab. Yeah, that's what I've got to. Yeah, the immense omnipresence of the desert. Yeah, it's. I know it's a bit confusing. Lord Crunk, I was totally done in, but I was going, what on earth? Just to be missing a whole chunk of language from the story. It's interesting. Oddly enough, I've been considering this, folks, and I don't know, but whenever it comes to doing God Emperor, um, again, my choice of book. Sorry, excuse me, my eyes are a wee bit. Each time has been kind of based on which one. I've got lots of different editions, though I don't obviously have the Berkeley's. But my choice of book has been based on which one has got the largest text. To be honest with you, so I'm kind of curious about which one to choose for God Emperor whenever we get there. I'm trying to figure out, is there ultimately I think it doesn't really matter which one I pick. I think as we go with different people reading different editions of the book, we're going to find the mistakes in them anyway. Hmm. No, where did we get to? Yes, right, the spear. Okay, yeah, so this guy's wearing a spear symbol at the right breast. Yeah, I kind of wondered why. Um, where are we? Sorry. Cynthia said, when have the Fremen used spears? Is this an off-world smuggler symbol, perhaps? Well, I don't know. He's a Fremen, isn't he? This character. This is Muriz, as we're going to find out shortly. Lord Croc said somewhere in the text I remember reading that the spear, maybe it was the lance, was an old traditional Fremen battle weapon. Thank you, Lord Croc. With shield fighting and things like that, spears would make a lot more sense, wouldn't they? And things like man catchers. There's a whole shebang of medieval weapons that would make mincemeat of somebody with a shield. Um, I was always kind of wondered about the knife being so prominent, and wouldn't you be better off with a sword? And certainly Danny Villeneuve's things that tend to go with swords and things. But yeah, spears would be, because you could push a spear against the shield and then push into it, if you see what I mean. Weapons like that. Hmm. So just wondering if, well, it's a spear symbol anyway. It's certainly symbolic of something. The Fremen approached slowly, giving each of them time to study the other. So the Fremen approached slowly, giving each of them time to study the other. The man was tall with a total indigo of spice eyes. The stillsuit mask concealed the lower half of his face, and the hood had been drawn down to protect his brows. The movement of the robe revealed a hand beneath it holding a Mala pistol. The man stopped 2 paces from Leto, looked down at him with a puzzled crinkling around the eyes. Good fortune to us all, Leto said. The man peered all around, scanning the emptiness, then returned his attention to Leto. What are you here, child? He demanded. His voice was muffled by the stillsuit mask. Are you trying to be the cork in a wormhole? I get the sense that that's a Fremen joke. I think I kind of get it. um, Again, Leto used traditional Fremen formula. Tradition, ritual, etc. The desert is my home. When? The man demanded. Which way do you go? I travel south from Jacurutu. An abrupt laugh erupted from the man. Well, Batia, you're the strangest thing I've seen in the Tanzarut. So, Batig, I think is how you pronounce it. In this sense means, we're about to find out, it means little melon. uh, so from the Arabic al-batik, I think I'm with a little emphasis on the H there at the end, is the word for melon. It's a traditional Arabic. Batik is the word for the plural of watermelon. Classical Arabic, a single watermelon is a batika. And there are other words for this fruit too, I'm apparently informed. So this is the word little melon, bit condescending, something that's full of water, pretty much, I'd imagine, in that sense. Pardon me. And it kind of almost made me think that this is going to be a little epithet applied to Leto II here, little melon. I don't think it's going to be one he's going to be known by 3,500 years later, but calling him little melon here reminds me on Caligula, which is a nickname that the Roman army gave him. Caligula means little boots, doesn't it? Little melon. So I travelled south from Jakarta. An abrupt laugh erupted from the man. Well, Batty, you're the strangest thing I've seen in the Tanzurut. I'm not your little melon, Leto said, responding to Batty. This was a label with dire overtones. The little melon on the desert's edge offered its water to any finder. Will not drink you, Batty, the man said. I am Muriz. I am the Arifa of this Taif. He indicated with a head motion, the distant spice crawler. Leto noted how the man called himself the judge of his group and referred to the others as Taif, a band or company. They were Ikwan, not a band of brothers. Paid renegades for sure. Hang on, did I write that down right? No, I did not. I don't think I did. They were not Ikwan. Sorry, is what that should say. Pretty much figured that one out myself there. That didn't make sense, Russell. Right, bear with me a second. I fixed that. They were not. There we go. Right, I'll read that again, sorry. Leto noted that the man called himself the judge of his group and referred to the others as Taif, a band or company. Pardon me. They were not a band of brothers. Sorry, they were not equal. Sorry, I've got hiccups really badly. Apologies. They were not Ikwan, a band of brothers. There we go. Paid renegades for sure. Here lay the thread he required. Goodness gracious. Now, Muriz, we've had this name before as an Arabic word, one who's from the marsh and one who dwells near water. Muriz here, as we will find out, is the father of Assah Tariq, the preacher's guide. We've encountered him before. Muriz is also the name of the woman that Ganima captured, who was assisting Palam Basha. That was waiting for her to return to the siege, the person that was controlling the tigers on Arrakis. So this is the second character that we've had called Muriz. This is the one that's the father of Assah Tariq, and his name means one who's from the marsh or one who dwells near water. Now, what else did we get there? Arifa. Muriz says, I am Muriz, I am the Arifa of this Taif. So Arifa is an Arabic, a female given name, means knowledgeable, wise, or expert, from the root arf, to know, apparently, if I've said that right. Taif, or Taif, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, or Tuf, from the root TWF, Tof, is to wander or to roam or to circulate. It's also the name of a city and governorate in Mecca province of Saudi Arabia. Ikwan we've had before, in relation to the Bene Gesserit, or sorry, not the Bene Gesserit, in relation to the Fremen. They're known as the Equine Bedvine, isn't it? The brothers. band of brothers, if you like. From the Arabic root ikwa, meaning brothers, and is the plural of ik, which I'm assuming is brother. Band of Brothers is from Shakespeare, which are Frank likes. It's Henry V, Act 4, Scene 3. It's a speech for mugs by an English king. Oh, we happy few wee band of brothers, isn't it? Yeah, we mugs, bunch of mugs, I would say. But there you are. Of course, where the TV series gets its name from, isn't it? So I was just checking for new comments there. So just a bunch of terms that are dropped there, one of which we've had before. So essentially that Muriz is a judge amongst his people. They're amongst the TIFF. These people they're wanderers, they're roamers, they roam, travelers, that kind of thing, I think, is the word he uses for his men. They're not a brotherhood. And Batty's melon. Right, on we go. When Leto remained silent, Muriz asked, "Do you have a name?" "Batty will do." A chuckle shook Muriz. "You've not told me what you do here." Now, I've got a question mark next to that, but it's a statement. I think, I don't know, I found out about, you've not told me. No, he hasn't told him, but it's not a question, is it? Right. Where do we go? Sorry, just trying to, I got a lot of notes here. Now, you've not told me what you do here. "I seek the footprints of a worm," Leto said, using the religious phrase, which said he was on Hajj for his own Ummah, his personal revelation. "One so young?" Muriz asked. He shook his head. "I don't know what to do with you. You have seen us." "What have I seen?" Leto asked. "I speak of Jacurutu, and you make no sense. Sorry, you make no response." "Riddle games," Muriz said. "What is that then?" He nodded toward the distant butte. Leto spoke from his vision. "Only Shuloch." Muriz stiffened, and Leto felt his own pulse quicken. A long silence ensued, and Leto could see the man debating and discarding various responses. Shuloch. In the quiet story time after a siege meal, stories of the Shuloch caravansary were often repeated. Bear with me a second, I've just got a mistake there. 2 over the page. Oh, that's why I've got a 42. There we go. Sorry, bear with me a second, please. Stories of the Shuloch caravansary. I've got a hyphen in my copy of the book between caravan and Siri, and I've checked the electronic copy for that one earlier, where it's one word. Listeners always assumed that Shuloch was a myth, a place for interesting things to happen, and only for the sake of the story. Leto recalled a Shuloch story. A waif was found at the desert's edge and brought into the siege. At first, the waif refused to respond to his saviors. Then, when he spoke, no one could understand his words. As days passed, he continued unresponsive, refused to dress himself or cooperate in any way. Every time he was left alone, he made odd motions with his hands. All the specialists in the siege were called in to study this waif, but arrived at no answer. Then a very old woman passed the doorway, saw the moving hands, and laughed. "He only imitates his father who rolls the spice fibers into rope," she explained. "It's the way they still do it at Shuloch. He's just trying to feel less lonely." And the moral: in the old days of Shuloch, there is security and a sense of belonging to the golden thread of life. As Muriz remained silent, Leto said, I am the waif from Shuloch, who knows only to move his hands. In the quick movement of the man's head, Leto saw that Muriz knew the story. Muriz responded slowly, voice low and filled with menace. Are you human? Human as yourself, Leto said. You speak most strangely for a child. I remind you that I am a judge who can respond to the taqwa. Ah, yes, Leto thought. In the mouth of such a judge, the taqwa carried immediate threat. Taqwa was the fear invoked by the presence of a demon, a very real belief among older Fremen. The Arifa knew the ways to slay a demon and was always chosen, and we have this in quotation, because he has the wisdom to be ruthless without being cruel, to know what kindness is in fact the way to know what kindness is in fact the way to greater cruelty. That doesn't sound like I wrote that down right, does it? Because he has the wisdom to be ruthless without being cruel, comma, to know what kindness is in fact, to know when kindness. Oh, that's my mistake there. To know when. Sorry, I've written what. Apologies. There we go. That's what was wrong. Because he has the wisdom to be ruthless without being cruel, to know when kindness is in fact the way to greater cruelty. There we go. That made much more sense. Now, what have we got? Shuloch. Shu's an Egyptian god, by the way. Pardon me. And in Egyptian, the word shu means emptiness. Comes from the verb swuj. I don't know how to pronounce that. SWJ is the root. Shuj, I think that's it with the wee grab. To be empty or to be devoid of. Loch, in this case, I suppose, is a lake. Or in German, loch would be a hole or an enclosure. And in Sanskrit, loka would be a world realm of people, a world or a realm of people. So Shuloch, we could interpret that in a few different ways if you like. But essentially, you could say that it's the lake of emptiness, or the hole of emptiness, if you like, or a world or realm of emptiness. And that's what I get from the word, just splitting it into the two syllables there, shu and loch. Doing a wee bit of etymological work there. I think that's the sort of meaning we're meant to get with this word. Either the lake of that's devoid of things, or lake of emptiness, or the hole of emptiness. Now, what else do we have there? Caravanserai is an inn that provides lodging for caravans and traders in Islamic times. We got through a wee bit further there just to get to the words. Now, taqwa is an Islamic term, which means to be conscious and cognizant of God, of truth, piety, the fear of God, this kind of thing. See wiki is what I've written there. In Arabic, it has roots from waka, which is W-A-Q-A, meaning to shield, protect, preserve, guard, safeguard, etc. In Arabic type was forbearance, fear, and abstinence. Now again, I'll just put C wiki for that. Mashad we've had before. I've put C Dune, the test mashed. If you remember that, it's a big misprint and all the way back in June with Paul, and it was submitting to the test, and it should have been the test Mashad. I'm pretty sure in my copy it said mashed. I think in a lot of people it said mashed. My text has one word: in the old ways of Shuloch. Heard you say days instead of ways. Let's check. It could have been me. Old days of Shuloch. Old days. Yeah, that was. Heard you said days instead of ways. Ah, right. Hang on. 42. Maybe it's not me. And the moral: in the old days of Shuloch. Yeah, I've got days. You've got ways. I take it something. I definitely have days. There we go. Ways. Let me scribble that in. That's the Berkeley. I take it I just put ways in the Berkeley. Yeah, I've got days. In the old days of Shuloch, there is security and a sense of belonging to the golden thread of life. Cynthia's got in her copy, in the old ways of Shuloch, there is security and a sense of belonging to the golden thread of life. It's the way they still do it as in the previous. Yeah. Okay, yeah, my copy says days. Oh, the joy of doing this, Cynthia. Sometimes I have to, yeah, Bojack's got ways too. Oh dear. Sometimes, because I make mistakes as well, but I have to, whenever these things happen, I've got to consider, is it the book or is it me as well? Dear, oh dear. So there we go. Some of those words. The mouth of such a judge, the taqwa, carried immediate threat. Taqwa was the fear invoked by the presence of a demon, a very real belief among older Fremen. The Arifa knew the ways to slay a demon and was always chosen because he has the wisdom to be ruthless without being cruel, to know when kindness is in fact the way of greater cruelty. I just put at the bottom of this that it reminds me a little bit on Erewhon, on the topsy-turviness of it. But also it reminds me of kind of mad killers in movies and stuff. Ruthless without being cruel, to know where kindness is in fact, the way to a greater cruelty. Be my argument that none of these people have ever slain a demon. Maybe by this conversation here, maybe a few children or midgets, possibly. So, but this thing had come to the point which Leto sought, and he said, I can submit to the Mashad. I'll be the judge of any spiritual test, Muriz said. Do you accept this? Bail al-Kaifa, sorry, Leto said, without qualification. That's an old one we're familiar with. So we got Taqwa then is an Islamic term. We talked a bit about that one briefly there. Forbearance, fear, abstinence, conscious and cognizant of God, of truth, piety, etc. Mashad then is a place of martyrdom, a mausoleum, a place of witnessing. We have the city of Mashhad, is the second city in terms of population of Iran, and is associated with the shrine of Imam Riza, who is the Haram-e-Imam Riza, which is the sanctuary of Imam Reza, which is a very holy site in Shia Islam. See wiki. A sly look came over Muriz's face. He said, I don't know why I permit this. Best you were slain out of hand, but you're a small batty, and I had a son who is dead. Come, we will go to Shuloch, and I'll convene the Isnad for a decision about you. Isnad here in Arabic means supporting. We talked a wee bit, we mentioned this earlier before, is a chain of transmitters. Now, what that means, we have mentioned this one before, just to recap, are people who pass on a tradition from original authority to the present person reciting or compiling that tradition, and is associated generally with Hadith literature. Pardon me. Leto, noting how the man's every mannerism betrayed deadly decision, wondered how anyone could be fooled by this. He said, I know Shuloch is the Al-Sunnah wal Jamaat. Now, Al-Sunnah wal Jamaat is a formal name used by Sunni Muslims to refer to Sunni Islam. It means the people of the Sunnah and the community. Sunnah in that sense means the ways of the Prophet. I'm reading the Quran at the minute. It's one of the books I have on the go. I've just finished the 5th surah. Is that what they're called? Surah. I'm really bad at lodging new words. I think it's surah, isn't it? Yes. Surahs are chapters in the Quran. I think I actually might be on chapter 6 now. I think I just finished chapter 5. Pardon me. Not enjoying reading it at all. I have to say that much. Very interesting to look at some of the mythology within it, particularly around Iblis and Satan, which I've just hit actually within the book. I've always been trying to figure out how do we get from Satan's in the Jewish Old Testament, who are agents of God, if you like. How we get from that to things like Antichrist and stuff in the New Testament too. We've got Iblis and as the devil, as Satan, with that term applied to him in the Quran. But how did we get to the kind of medieval idea of the devil, of Satan, of Lucifer, of all these things kind of being put into one character? And I can see that very much so that there must be a clear link. As much as you've got traditions going through these, from Judaism to Christianity to Islam, I think it heads back into Christianity in the Middle Ages. The Christian idea of the devil, as far as I can tell, very much comes from some of the esoteric stuff that we're going to eventually look at, but especially from Islam, I think. Just my opinion. Of a fair bit of it to read yet. No, bear with me a wee second. So, this is Muriz. What does a child know of the real world? Muriz asked, motioning for Leto to precede him to the thopter. Leto obeyed, but listened carefully to the sound of the Fremen's footsteps. The surest way to keep a secret is to make people believe that they already know the answer, Leto said. People don't ask questions then. It was clever of you who were cast out of Jacurutu, who believe Shuloch, the story myth place, is real. Pardon me. And how convenient for the smugglers or anyone else who desires access to Dune. Muriz's footsteps stopped. Leto turned with his back against the thopter's side, the wing on his left. Muriz stood half a pace away with his Mala pistol drawn and pointed directly at Leto. So you're not a child, Muriz said. A cursed midget come to spy on us. I thought you spoke too wisely for a child, but you spoke too much too soon. Pardon me. Not enough, Leto said. I'm Leto, the child of Paul Muad'Dib. If you slay me, you and your people will sink into the sand. If you spare me, I'll lead you to greatness. Now, I've written next to that, see epigraph. So just if we jump all the way back to our epigraph, what was that all about? The bit at the bottom, every civilization depends upon the quality of the individuals it produces. If you over-organize humans, over-legalize them, suppress their urge to greatness, they cannot work, and their civilization collapses. Suppressing their urge to greatness. I'll lead you to greatness. Should be wary of anybody who says that. It's the old Star Wars thing, isn't it? Wars do not make one great, And if you're being led by someone to greatness, I'd argue that it's their greatness that the person leading that they're going to get the greatness, if you like. So don't play games with me, midget, Muriz snarled. Leto isn't the real Jacurutu from whence you say. He broke off. The gun had dropped slightly as a puzzled frown made his eyes squint. We get action here now, attack. It was the hesitation Leto had expected. He made every muscle indication of a move to the left, which, deflecting his body no more than a millimeter, brought the Fremen's gun swinging wildly against the wind edge. Is that wing edge? Hang on. The wind edge. I think that might be winged. Possibly it's wind in my book. So flew from some. Yes, wing. Yeah, that makes sense. Wind edge. Thank you, Cynthia. And Bojack back there. Sorry, in the old ways of Shuloch. Heard you say Des instead of Ways, yeah. And then I have Ways, and then we have Wing Edge. Yes, indeed, Wing instead of what did I say? Wind. Yeah, I've got Wind Edge in my book. 55. No, where are we? Let me just fix that. Yeah, it's Wing. Right, I'll read that again. Sorry. Thank you very much. That didn't make any sense to me. It was the hesitation Leto had expected. He made every muscle indication of a move to the left, which, deflecting his body no more than a millimeter, brought the Fremen's gun swinging wildly against the winged edge. The Mauler pistol flew from his hand, and, before he could recover, Leto was beside him with Muriz's own crysknife pressed against the man's back. Now, pay attention to that. I think there might be a problem with that because something didn't seem right to me earlier, just as I was doing my coloring in and stuff. Right, so the pistol flew from it, brought the Fremen's gun swinging wildly against the wing edge. The pistol flew from his hand, and before he could recover, Leto was beside him with Muriz's own crysknife, right, against the man's back. The tip's poisoned, Leto said. Tell your friend in the Thopter that he has to remain exactly where he is without moving at all, otherwise I'll be forced to kill you. Now, I think we've got a continuity error here. I think as much as, I don't know. See what you think, guys. Muriz's own knife. The tip's poisoned. Why is he bothering to tell Muriz that? I think what we have is that Frank has written down that he's got his own knife, Muriz's own crysknife pressed against the man's back, and it's possibly I think maybe he may have written that years earlier, but then I think what we have actually is Leto acting with his own knife, possibly his father's. I'm not sure. The tip's poisoned, Leto said. Tell your friend in the Thopter that he's to remain exactly where he is without moving at all, otherwise I'll be forced to kill you. So is that not redundant? If it's Muriz's own knife, I'm sure he knows already that it's poisoned. Nursing his let me see. Muriz, nursing his injured hand, shook his head at the figure in the Thopter, said, "My companion Behaleth has heard you. He will be as unmoving as a rock." Not a rolling stone. Leto, knowing he had very little time until the two worked out a plan of action or their friends came to investigate, Leto spoke swiftly. "You need me, Muriz. Without me, the worms and their spice will vanish from Dune." He felt the Fremen stiffen. Now, I thought that would have been there, but we'll come back to it anyway. The bit that I would just want to suggest is that Paul's supposed to have Muriz's own knife in his back, and Leto is supposed to have Muriz's own knife at his back, and I think it's actually not his own Muriz's knife. I think it's either Leto's or Paul's. Excuse me. It's just if we went back a bit, even within the fine pattern of imperial civilization and its sophisticated rules that remained half-tamed savages. So they remained half-tamed savages, aware always that a crysknife dissolved at the death of its owner. Leto's thought, that this is what can save us. Leto thought that wildness. I suppose the idea is that if Paul Muad'Dib is alive, his knife still exists. Right, so on we go. Behaleth, tricky one, I thought, but if we split the word, we get from Old English haleth and the word be. So be denoting action to, and then so from the word hali to the old word, an archaic word is behale, which is to sound or to call, like an alert, if you like. And Haleth is an old English word for a warrior. So Behaleth's name, if I've got the etymology correct on it, is a warrior who has to sound a call, if you like, or to call out, to sound. The warrior who, a warrior who gives a call for one of, yeah, that'll do. So what Leto presents to Muriz here is, you need me, Muriz. Without me, the worms and their spice will vanish from Dune. It's the ecological problem that Leto's working here with Muriz. But how do you know of Shuloch? Muriz asked. I know they said nothing at Jacurutu. So you admit I'm Leto Atreides. Who else could you be? But how do you... Because you're here, Leto said. Shuloch exists, therefore the rest is utter simplicity. You are the cast out who escaped when Jacurutu was destroyed. I saw your signal with your wings, therefore you used no device which could be overheard at a distance. You collect spice, therefore you trade. You could only trade with the smugglers. You are a smuggler, yet you are a Fremen. You must be of Shuloch. Why do you tempt me to slay you out of hand? Because you would have slain me anyway when we returned to Shuloch. A violent rigidity came over Muriz's body. I think these kind of reactions are generally when someone realizes that, it's that kind of, is he reading my mind or something like that? It's that, how does he know? Careful, Muriz, Leto continued. I know about you. It was in your history that you took the water of unwary travelers. By now, this would be common ritual with you. How else could you silence the ones who chanced upon you? How else keep your secret? Batty, you seduce me with gentle epithets and kindly words. Why waste any of my water upon the sand? And if I were missed, as were many of the others, well, the Tanzaruf got me, eh? Well, we've had a wee chat about this as well before. Muriz made the horns of the worm sign with his right hand to ward off the Rihani, which Leto's words called up. And Leto, knowing how older Fremen distrusted mentats, or anything which smacked of them by a show of extended logic, suppressed a smile. Namri spoke of us at Jacurutu, Muriz said. I will have his water when... You'll have nothing but empty sand if you continue playing the fool, Leto said. What will you do, Muriz, when all of Dune has become green grass, trees, and open water? It'll never happen. It's happening before your eyes. Leto heard Muriz's teeth grinding in rage and frustration. Presently, the man grated. How would you prevent this? Pardon me. I know the entire plan of the transformation, Leto said. I know every weakness in it, every strength. Without me, Shai Hulud will vanish forever. So this is the as much as we've talked about the various things that Frank's put into this book, this is our great political leader, if you like, who's rising. And this is his ecological platform, for want of a better term. Horns of the worm sign, this sign of the devil, all of this kind of is an ancient symbol, isn't it? We had a good wee natter about it way back. I think in the original Dune book club, perhaps. What we've got though with common ritual, if we back up a wee bit here, in your history that you took the water of unwary travelers, by now this would be common ritual. And we have this discussion at the start of the book, start of this chapter with Leto. I'm going to need to start, having ceremonies, isn't that it? New ceremonies for his life. Have to adopt many new ceremonies. Like the Fremen of old, he knew he'd have to adopt many new ceremonies to keep his personality from the back. So these are ceremonies, rituals that the Fremen, in this case of Shuloch, of Jacurutu, have developed to protect themselves. And it is simply, it's a ritual of murder. And the justification of this ritual murder is, as Leto puts it here, how else do you keep your secret? How do you silence people who accidentally find you in the desert? You call me Batty, full of little thing, full of water, little melon. Why waste any of my water upon the sun? As if I were missed as many of those, the Tanzer have got me. So basically, you'll murder me, take my water. And the excuse, if anybody, I just must have just died in the desert. So Muriz making the sign is just that Leto's nailed it exactly. That's exactly what you're thinking, exactly what you're going to do. And the thing that can save us within this, the thing that can save Leto, I think, within this chapter is ritual. As I said, we are going to have a good look at it, actually. As I said, that episode that we're going to do on ritual, all the kind of little things that are of interest to Frank that he's brought into this book. Lord Raglan's stuff on ritual and ceremony and mythology. And we're going to have a wee look at stuff to do with the second skin as well. A couple of things as well we'll throw in. Should be fun, actually, but it'll take a bit of an hour. Let's see. And you've got this kind of, it's bizarre when you think about it, these people on this desert world, where one day it's going to be all green trees and open water. Never, no. There's something kind of quite ironic and silly and absurd about it, isn't there? The topsy-turvy nature of it. That, as I said earlier, it's reminding me a wee bit on Erewhon. So how would you prevent it? He knows the entire plan. I know the entire plan of the transformation, Leto said. I know every weakness in it, every strength. Without me, Shai-Hulud will vanish forever. A sly note returning to his voice, Muriz asked, well, why dispute it here? We're at a standoff. You have your knife. You could kill me, but Behaleth would shoot you. Not before I recovered your pistol, Leto said. Then I'd have your thopter. Yes, I can fly it. A scowl creased Muriz's forehead beneath the hood. What if you're not who you say? Will my father not identify me? Leto asked. Ah, Muriz said. There's how you learned, eh? But he broke off, shook his head. My own son guides him. He says you two have never... How could... So you don't believe Muad'Dib reads the future, Leto said. Of course we believe. But he says of himself that, again, Muriz broke off. Now, what I got from that, just, there's how you learned it. So you're not a deadly midget demon. You are the child of Muad'Dib. Okay. But my son guides him. He says you two have never, what's being left unsaid there, is that they've never met, is what Assah Tariq says anyway. Of course they've met him. He's met him as a baby, helped him kill Skytail. So you don't believe Muad'Dib reads the future, Leto said. Of course we believe. But he says of himself that, and again Muriz broke off, and you thought him unaware of your distrust, Leto said. I came to this exact place in this exact time to meet you, Muriz. I know all about you because I've seen you and your son. I know how secure you believe yourselves, how you sneer at Muad'Dib, how you plot to save your little patch of desert. But your little patch of desert is doomed without me, Muriz, lost forever. It has gone too far here on Dune. My father has almost run out of vision, and you can only turn to me. There's real condescension there, I think, in a sense, from Leto towards Muriz there, in a way that the name Batty is quite condescending from Muriz to Leto. The condescension, this huge, vast place, is your little patch of desert, isn't it? And your little patch of desert is doomed without me. But my father has almost run out of vision, and you can only turn to me. That blind, Muriz stopped, swallowed. He'll return soon from Arrakis, Leto said, and then we shall see how blind he is. How far have you gone from the old Fremen ways, Muriz? What? He is Muad'Dib with you. Your people found him alone in the desert and brought him to Shuloch. What a rich discovery he was, richer than a spice vein. Muad'Dib. He has lived with you. His water mingled with your tribe's water. He's part of your spirit river. Leto pressed the knife hard against Muriz's robe. Careful, Muriz. Leto lifted his left hand, released the Fremen's face flap, dropped it. Knowing what Leto planned, Muriz said, "Where would you go if you killed us both?" "Back to Jacurutu." Leto pressed the fleshy part of his own thumb against Muriz's mouth. "Bite and drink, Muriz. That or die." And this is also ritual. Muriz hesitated, then bit viciously into Leto's flesh. Leto watched the man's throat, saw the swallowing convulsion, withdrew the knife, and returned it. Yeah, that's returned it. That's his knife again, isn't it? So that bit there suggests that is Muriz's knife because he gives it back. So bear with me a second. A sly note returning to his voice, Muriz asked, this is Muriz. "Well, why dispute it here? We're at a standoff. You have your knife. You could kill me, but Behaleth would shoot you." I'm wondering, I wonder, is that you have my knife? That's my problem. It's your knife, my knife hasn't, it should be Muriz's knife, but there's a suggestion that it changes there and that it's actually Leto's knife. I'm not too sure. Might be just me reading too much into it. Pardon me. So where would you go if you killed both of us? Back to Jacurutu. So Leto presents his thumb and makes him bite into it and drink the blood from it. Bite and drink, Muriz, that or die. So this is a ritual. Leto watched the man's throat, saw the swallowing convulsion, withdrew the knife, and returned it. "Muad'Dib," Leto said, "I must offend the tribe before you can take my water." Muriz nodded. So we have law, we have ritual, we have myth, I think all combined within this biting of the thumb. The myth of the story of the waif that Leto tells him, "I am the waif. Think of me in terms of this myth and in terms of this story and what that represents." That immediately makes Muriz think he's a demon. Because we're never quite sure what happens at Shuloch, are we? Muad'Dib is now a bit of bother with this one. Muad is love, friendship, affection. From the word Qiyas now is a method of legal reasoning in Islamic jurisprudence. Qiyas in Arabic is an analogy or comparison from the word qasa, to measure, to estimate, or to compare. So, quad qiyas in this sense means in relation to love, friendship, and affection, and the application of jurisprudence to that love, friendship, and affection. I think that's the way I would get that. It's like, I think it's a portmanteau word that Frank's grabbed a couple of words, stuck them together, and Bob's your uncle. Pardon me. As in your knife, yeah. So he takes the knife from him, but you have your knife, is what Muriz says to him. As in your knife. I was just wondering, would it be my knife? There. I have your. Yeah, you have your. Thank you. It just seems like a slight continuity thing, doesn't it? It's he's got Muriz's knife, then Muriz is telling him he's got his knife. You've got your knife, sorry, not and then Paul hands him, sorry, Leto hands Muriz his knife back. So it's a little thing, it's just some little like a wee continuity error or something there, I think. And again, some of those things like that, I think I do tend to attribute them to Frank writing some of this stuff all the way back. We have to remember that parts of Children of Dune are written, and that means that they're written before 1965, possibly even around 1963. And probably I would say 63 because that's Dune's first publication in magazine form, So, Wadqueous, and again, I think when Paul, sorry, I keep saying that, when Leto, not Paul, when Leto wants to know how far have you gone from the old Fremen ways, it's because of the way they've been treating Paul, Muad'Dib, and he reminds him he is Wadqueous with you. It's like, what the hell? He's your guest. He's part of your family because you brought him into your house. Because he was a blind man left to the desert, you brought him in. Water-rich vein, part of your spirit river, and you think you're manipulating him and being, so you don't think he's wise to it. So Wadqueous, this is the thing: I must offend the tribe before you can take my water. This use of ritual, myth, story, superstition, whatever, etc., that Leto's doing here, will protect him from being killed by Muriz, at least for now. Muriz nodded. Your pistol is over there, Leto gestured with his chin. You trust me now? Muriz asked. How else can I live with the cast out? I went with no there. Again, and it's this bit, Leto saw the sly look in Muriz's eyes. So can you trust Muriz? No. But this time, it was a measuring thing, a weighing of economics, a way of the law of the household. The man turned away with an abruptness which told of secret decisions, recovered his Mala pistol, and returned to the wing step. Come, he said, we tarry too long in a worm's lair. There we go. That's us at the end of the chapter, folks. I'm glad it's not just me, Bojack. It just seems a bit iffy. Bojack said it doesn't seem right for sure. It's could be just possibly, just one of those things. It would be fixed with simply replacing your and you have your knife. That fixes everything. If you have my knife, you could kill me. That would make more sense. But it seems like I think we have multiple. But yeah, it's a suggestion. Takes the knife. It's Muriz's knife, then it's his knife, then it's Muriz's knife again, just based on what's said there. So there we go. We had quite big chunk of text missing for some of us in this book, in this chapter. Shuloch, the sacrifice, the ritual murder, etc. Can we tie that into the Atreides? We can. Iphigenia in Taurus. So as much as Leto, I think, has a number of Leto, the second here, I think, has a whole basically the same. How would we put this? At this point, has the same mythological overlays as his father, because he's an Atreides. So we could look at Leto in terms of the different aspects of the Atreides myth, but in particular Orestes as well. And as much as we have at this point Paul being associated with the Oedipus myth at this point in the story. So basically, within Iphigenia at Taurus by Euripides, Orestes is towards the end of the how would you put it, the stories of the Pelopidai. Orestes and Pylades head to Taurus to basically get this icon, the statue of Artemis for Apollo. And it's in Taurus. Now, this is where they find Iphigenia, who is the daughter of Agamemnon, who supposedly murdered She's the child that's sacrificed to launch the 1,000 ships. And the whole thing is that she's spirited away and an eidolon is put in place, this kind of thing. And that she's taken here. In some stories that she's taken to... it's the same with Helen of Troy, by the way. There's versions of the story that she's just in Egypt the whole time, and that what is actually with Paris and Troy is a copy. Another one of these cloud copies, if you like. So it's just that the real problem for Orestes and Pylades going to Taurus is that the Taurians are well into human sacrifice. I suppose ritual sacrifice of Hellenes, Greeks. That's a major part of the plot there. So it's just that kind of human sacrifice thing within the law, the ritual, the myth of it. This is all Lord Raglan's stuff. And it had occurred to me, as I said before, that we've read little bits and pieces too from this book. But what we're going to hopefully do is give you like a chapter or two, possibly, of some of the core ideas of Lord Raglan's work, and then we're going to do the same we're going to read to the Moapo of Leto II, the Atreides, and possibly a few wee things from Erewhon as well. But that's kind of for like a package episode of I don't know what to call it, to be honest with you. But there we go, folks. 2 more chapters done. What a great chapter. This one, in fact, 2 really good chapters. One very fast, punchy, drives things forward, still makes us wonder a bit. And then we have this is a chapter of mystery, intrigue, tension, action, threat, violence, mythology, stories, a story within a story. And so we don't often talk too much about Herbert's fondness for Shakespeare, but that's a Shakespearean trait. Within Hamlet, you'll have the play within the play, this kind of thing. There's often stories within the plays. And I quite like the little story. The thing that's left unknown about it is, so what about this kid from Shuloch? It's just making these imitations, you know. And in the old ways of Shuloch, there's security, a sense of belonging to the golden thread of life. It's just what's scary about the story. It's the old woman last, but it's what is it that scares Muriz about the story? That Leto tells him, "I'm the waif from Shuloch, who knows only to move his hands," and that pretty much, I would say, what's the term? Shits Muriz up a bit. He goes low immediately with menace. His voice goes low with menace. Thinks he's dealing with a demon and a midget, and ends up pointing a gun at Leto as a response of this folk tale, this myth, this story. So an emphasis, particularly within this chapter, the key words I'd bounce in a ritual, ceremony, bati. And again, ritual murder, this kind of human sacrifice. And it's very interesting within all of this, all of the Greek mythological overlays within the Dune series, that particularly, as I've pointed out, a lot of these stories within Greek mythology are actually about, within them culturally, is a movement away from human sacrifice. It's quite interesting, So they say Leto is appealing to Muriz's desire for power, seen in chapter 12 with the ritual murder of the pilgrims, his son a guide for Paul, and now a chance to controlling the air. I've reminded of Jessica here. Oh, very good. Yeah, it's I'm going to lead you to greatness. Is okay. That's what's holding his hand. Yes, indeed. I think that's generally what those at Jackaroo have been baited with as well. But yes, the very sort of kind of spooky kind of ritual murder right at the start. When I said that what kind of murder? Oh, here, do we have a word to explain there? Hang on, did I miss one? Very quickly. Oh no, we did it. We did what? Quies. Yes, we did. That's okay. Yeah, when I was writing that kind of within this, depending on how you look at it, a person who's prepared to murder demons, belief in a demon, this kind of thing. We'll just say if I don't believe in demons, they don't exist, and that this would be a child that he'd be murdering. And that he has a whole reason and series of reasons and excuses and can do it kindly. That's the bit that it reminds me of that the type of murderer you see in war films, when they slit someone's throat, but they go shh, yeah, like, oh, as if doing that there, this kind of thing is some kind of act of kindness when you're murdering someone. The belief in your own head that you can be kind when you're killing someone is absurd. It's paradoxical. Well, if you're murdering them, it is, I suppose. But it made me think of those kind of characters, and it also made me think of some of the logic in this chapter. Made me think of Erewhon a wee bit, the topsy-turvy nature of that place, But Hadab is the first. There's hardly any words that have got by as in the book club. I think that's one there, But the logic of it is something. I saw something the other day where I walk my dogs, and I was saying to my wife, this did my head in. And it was the logic of it. Was that I was walking my dog, and there's somebody walking about 100 yards down from me up the country road. So we're in the countryside, you understand. There's no footpaths or anything. And this guy's dog takes a crap on the verge, just on the grass. And he picks it up. He gets his plastic bag out and picks up the dog shit. Ties it a little bit, and then throws it into the hedge. And I sort of walked past him. As I walked on down, I noticed that it was lying on the hedge. It was just lying. It bounced out of the hedge and was lying on the ground. Pardon me. So I just picked it up myself. I went on down to the bin and threw it in there. And the thing is, I didn't understand the logic of it at all. The madness of it was that if you're out in the countryside, you let your dog shit where you like, because all the flies and coprophages and stuff like that. Well, there's cow shit, there's shit everywhere. A dog shit on the verge of a country lane, country road where there's no houses or anything doesn't bother anybody, and it's gone. Nature takes care of it. So I couldn't understand the mentality of, first of all, the dog had shat in a place where it's fine, you don't need to pick it up, if you see what I mean. Second, that he decided that he did need to pick up a dog shit out in the middle of nowhere in the countryside, and put it in a plastic bag and then throw that bag away like litter. It made no sense to me at all. It was almost, I was kind of having kind of Heraclitean paradox in my brain. I was, all Cretans are liars. Is that what I'm thinking of? Or is that Empedocles? Sorry, hang on. Oh, that's Empedocles, isn't it? All Cretans are liars, but Epimenides. Sorry, there you go. I'm getting my Greeks mixed up today. It was rather Epimenides in there. That's is what I was looking for. Apologies. I'm getting my early Greek philosophers mixed up today. That must be because I'm tired. There we go, folks. A couple of thrilling, quite interesting chapters. We're really heading towards the back of the book now. Let's see, 1, 2, 3.5. Yeah, we're going to have 2 more chapters for next time. That's going to be no bother. Let me see. Akbar in there. Chapter 50 and 51 for the next time. Hopefully we'll be back on Thursday as normal, folks. I just need to figure out where we get to run this little program. But I was wanting to do all of that stuff when I suppose the second. There we go. The Sandtrike glove. So when are we going to do that? That's 52. So we're going to do 50 and 51 next week, and then we'll have 52 after that. And to coincide with that, we'll have to basically, excuse me, we'll do those kind of chats about Raglan, and DDA Anzi and Marino's Noel Ziegler's work. That's better. I really should sort my throat out first rather than talk. Well, there we go, folks. We've had just simply as we call it, he was appealing to Mira's desire for power. Seen in chapter 12 of the Ritual Murder of Pilgrims, his son, a guide for Paul, and now a chance to controlling the air. I'm reminded of Jessica here. Yeah, who else is in? It's the same with Namri, I think, as well. There's some kind of opportunism with the cast out. I'm not really kind of sure what their end goal was. To be honest with you, you're reminded of Jessica here. Some gave Paul a chance to controlling the air. Yeah. So that's the thing. I'm still not 100% clear on the cast out's motives. The other thing I was going to say something to everyone else there is the thing that this reminded me of with the blood and stuff was way back to the conversation in the banquet scene about the Fremen drinking blood. Pardon me. They're almost vampiric, and we kind of have some of this stuff here, as well. But it's just again, it was making me think about that conversation in the banquet scene. The idea of them drinking blood, this kind of thing, was that kind of part of the setup all the way back there as well, So there's Carlos saying, gotta go. Fun as always. Take care, everybody. No worries, Carlos. I'm wrapping up for the evening as well. My doggies are outside barking, which I'll have to get them out for a wee dander for walkies, I'm afraid. So there we go, folks. Thank you very much, as always, for your help. Some good spots tonight, little things that we noticed, some gaps in the book and stuff. And as always, much appreciated for your help, your comments, and your questions. So listen, thanks, Doc, and all. And Bojack said, much enjoyed. Take care, all. Oh, that's great, folks. Thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you on Thursday, back to normal at 10 o'clock GMT +1 for chapters 50 and 51. And get ready for a good old natter on some other stuff that we're going to do as an addition to the book club to go with it real soon. Plus, I've got something else dropping real soon, a wee kind of gift for you all. But I'm off to see something as well very shortly. So I'll let you know all about it after the weekend, folks. Take care, look after yourselves, be safe in this crazy, crazy world. And we'll see you real soon. Thanks very much. Good night. All the best. Bye-bye.